Everywhere you look, the rich history of the United Kingdom is there to be seen. But hidden beneath our feet, there's still a wealth of archaeological treasure just waiting to be found. That's why each year, up and down the country, our archaeologists dig down, searching for fresh discoveries.
Another one.
Revealing the imprint of ancient civilizations.
Yeah. So we are looking at a completely unknown Roman town.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And unearthing priceless objects.
Might be a pendant.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
This is something special, isn't it?
Yeah, I've not seen anything like it so far.
Every dig adds new pieces to the ever-growing archaeological jigsaw
Gotta come and have a look.
that is the epic story of our islands. It's been an extraordinary year full of challenges, and yet I've been able to visit so many exciting digs up and down the country.
Oh my goodness.
There have been spine-tingling discoveries to witness.
That is the face of a Trojan.
Yes.
My heart is racing.
And I'm even getting a chance to use a trowel myself. I'm joined by a trio of expert investigators.
I can actually see the texture of the weave, and it's, what, 1,600 years old?
It's amazing that a small DNA sample like this can tell that really quite big story.
As they dig deeper for answers.
Same technique as the Romans used.
Exactly.
Finally, the archaeologists bring their best finds into the studio.
Splash away. You can see that this object has had a life of its own.
For up-close analysis.
It's astonishing detail. Welcome to Digging for Britain. In this special episode, we're in the east of England, where I'm lucky enough to join in uncovering a spectacular and internationally important piece of Roman art. From under a crop of wheat, one of the most jaw-dropping finds ever featured on Digging for Britain.
So much colour, isn't it?
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
A Saxon burial in Kent shows the brutality of a 7th century death.
When we lifted the boss up, we realised the skull had been crushed in.
And in Norfolk, we get to taste ale just how the Anglo-Saxons made it.
Thank God I'm not driving home.
Across Britain, on hillsides and in town squares, the indelible evidence of Roman rule is there for all to see. Dedicated archaeologists have spent whole lifetimes piecing together evidence. Whether reconstructing once great buildings or studying priceless possessions, this work has created a vivid portrait of Roman Britain. It's such a well-trodden field of study. It's fascinated antiquarians and archaeologists for centuries, and you could be forgiven for thinking that there wasn't much new left to discover. Well, think again. The Roman occupation of Britain was an era of intense activity lasting almost 4 centuries. The Romans built to last, but periods of great upheaval followed, and England's fertile soil has been tilled and repurposed for so many centuries since that sites revealing completely new Roman treasures are rare to find. Which is partly why this dig, at a secret location just west of Peterborough, has got the experts very excited. Romans always keep archaeologists on their toes, and just last year, in this field, the most amazing Roman mosaic was found, and then it's lain safely covered up by this crop of wheat until now. You can see the wheat being harvested. The same family has farmed this land for 60 years, never realising what lay just beneath the surface. When farmer's son Jim first found the mosaic, it was only partly revealed. Now Jim's back to help uncover it in full. So Jim, you discovered this, you made this discovery. Tell me about it. How did it happen?
Last year, 2020, during lockdown, we brought the kids to the field so that we could get out of the house. There was a whole palaver with a load of angry bees, which meant that we couldn't go back the way we came, and we ended up having to go along the field boundary, which didn't have any crops in it. And along the ground was lots of different bits of pottery, which didn't really look like they should have been in the field at all. So there was orange pot, and there was multicoloured pot, and there was oyster shells.
And you'd never seen anything like that before?
No, so this was a real surprise because, I mean, I've been in and out of this field for a long time, since I was a teenager.
A wet winter followed by a drought revealed previously hidden fragments of Roman pottery, brick and tiles, but it was satellite images that suggested something really out of the ordinary.
So just using the overhead maps that are available on the internet, and right in front of me in this field that we're standing in now was a crop mark which looked like someone had drawn it with a piece of chalk onto my computer screen. It looked almost like a plan of a church or some sort of castle or something like that.
Jim figured out where the mark was and, after getting permission, began digging. Pretty soon, things got interesting.
My spade hit something hard. It was the big shock, basically, was these large tesserae, which I now know they are.
Tesserae, Latin for cubes or dice, are the small coloured tiles that make up a mosaic.
There's another panel!
Jim's family soon found they'd uncovered more and more.
Oh, it's not the end.
No, you're joking.
Realising the scale of his discovery, Jim called in the professionals.
I'm just tickling it, and I'm getting some more mosaic underneath.
As further layers of earth were removed, part of a huge and clearly very special Roman mosaic was revealed. Now back for the 2021 dig, Dr. John Thomas is leading the University of Leicester Archaeological Services team.
And this is where we're going to be digging again.
Yeah.
David Neal was once chief illustrator for English Heritage. He spent his life studying and recording Roman mosaic art.
And that's all pegged out,
Right.
and you'll be able to pick up where you left off.
Yes, and I want to use the same baselines.
They got a sneak preview last year. Now they're back to fully excavate and record the mosaic in all its glory.
I mean, what an amazing site to be involved with. You must be
incredible,
itching to get back to it this year.
Really much so, yeah. We've never seen the like of before, certainly in our area, but even in Britain.
So you uncovered a good proportion of this mosaic last year and then realised it was hugely significant. But I didn't hear anything about it last year, though.
No, and once we realised the importance of the discovery, we really started to think we needed to step back and sort of gather our thoughts a little bit, really, and come up with a plan with which to come back. But the importance of it dictated that we needed to keep everything secret.
Although only about half of the mosaic was uncovered, it was enough to show that it featured scenes from the epic Greek tales of the Trojan War.
David, you must know mosaics in Britain better than anybody else. How significant a find is this?
I would say it's the most important mosaic to have been found in Britain for over 100 years.
No.
Yes, and it's one of the most important mosaics that have been found in Northern Europe, without a shadow of doubt.
And you're not exaggerating. This is astonishing. So for you, it really is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery.
It is indeed. I mean, when it was found last year, it was quite staggering. This mosaic, with this painterly quality about it, is unlike the majority of mosaics in Britain.
And we're looking at other areas to try and find out how the mosaic fits in with the building that it sits in, but also buildings that may be around it.
How big is this site, then?
It could cover the whole field. There's potential for a lot more.
To get a sense of what else the Romans built here, magnetometry and ground-penetrating radar have been used to create a detailed survey of the entire field.
John, I'm blown away by this geophysics. I mean, it's extraordinary. You can see so much detail.
Surely can. I mean, this is very good at identifying the cut features, so the negative ditches, such as here, these very angular ones, and these sweeping ones down here.
So this is a
big building with a mosaic in it, and it's got these really interesting features.
Yeah, so that's part of the area where we found the mosaic, and that's probably the area where the owner and his guests would have sat in the dining room looking out at the mosaic, because the orientation of the mosaic strongly suggests it's got to be viewed from that way.
Right. Alongside the building that contains the mosaic, the geophysics reveals evidence of walls and rooms nearby. So a second trench is being opened. Debbie Frierson is the excavation supervisor.
In this early stage, we've got this wall across here has shown up, and this ditch has shown up. It's quite a substantial ditch, and it goes around the whole of the site.
And I can see that there's some activity going on over there.
Yeah.
A third trench is being dug on the opposite side of the field, where the survey has revealed some intriguing shapes.
Potentially they're shrines or temples.
So you've got a really precious opportunity to uncover this incredible, this amazing mosaic, but also actually to take a much more holistic approach and to understand more about the whole villa complex, what life was like here in the Roman period.
Yeah, and that is the ultimate aim, really, to give that story about this place that is you know, meaningful.
The first day of the excavation is nearly over, but Jim and Peter have managed to get below the earth and protective membrane that's covered the mosaic for the last year, and now just sand hides the tesserae. They must be getting close now. Jim, I see you've put the shovel down. Does that mean you think you're close?
Yeah, we're within about an inch of the surface now, so ready to take a bit of sand off if you want to have a go.
I'd love to. Is that OK?
Yeah, sure. Some tools here.
And that plastic one. Where do we start, Peter?
We're in the corner, so somewhere there's the shield bearer behind the king. So King Priam is here somewhere.
In Homer's Iliad, Priam, king of Troy, loses his son in battle against the invading Greeks. Can I kneel down on here?
Yes. Oh, look.
Oh, my goodness. It's just there.
It is right under the surface. So.
Oh, look at that. That's amazing.
So, the shield of the shield bearer.
This curving around here?
Yeah, that is his shield running into the border here.
OK, so his face is going to be just here?
Yeah, it is. It is fabulous, isn't it?
Oh, my goodness, this is amazing.
You look them in the face. It's, you know, you don't get to do that very often.
That is the face of a Trojan?
Yes. So this ought to be Priam with a bit of luck. So...
My heart is racing.
Yeah, amazing.
Just amazing.
Hang on.
Look at that.
That's Priam's face. There we go.
Oh, there he is.
There's his Phrygian cap, because he is the king of Phrygia as well as the king of Troy. You just don't want to stop uncovering it, do you?
No. Oh, Jim, I'm quite emotional seeing this. It's just amazing. I feel incredibly privileged to be here to help begin to uncover it. Nobody's seen those faces for perhaps 1,600 years. It's mind-blowing. This whole site is so precious, and I just can't wait to come back and see how much more of this amazing site they'll have uncovered then. There he is. The dig is continuing for another 2 weeks, so join me later in the show as I get my hands dirty, helping to unearth the rest of this titanic masterpiece.
Dig for the gods that leave no homes, for the ship is sailing is sunk and sea, the vessel aloft in a sky of stones, the famine road and the merchant's
quay. The 6th and 7th century in southeastern Britain is a fascinating period. We see a distinctive culture emerging and wonder how much of that is influence from abroad, how much of it is homegrown. And where we see that culture best is in graves, because the burial rite of the time was to inter people fully clothed with their jewellery, with other objects. And as we see so well at our next dig, each burial is like a time capsule. This extraordinary dig site is located on the eastern tip of the Kent coast, just 25 miles from continental Europe. With the last of the Roman army departing in 410,
The Kent coast was clear, and history tells us of the arrival of Saxons, Angles and Jutes. When work recently began on a housing development here in Deal, it revealed over 80 graves, some containing spectacular finds. Among the archaeologists who've been carefully excavating these treasures is Dr. Andrew Richardson from the Kent Archaeological Trust. This extravagant burial dates from the 7th century.
So what we've got here probably is a woman, and clearly from the objects in the grave, this is somebody of considerable wealth and status. At the feet, we've got this beautiful glass vessel. It's almost certainly a Kentish product, probably produced at Faversham, where we think the kings of Kent had a high-status craft-working centre. So we know straight away this individual's family is wealthy enough to have deposited a glass vessel like this into this burial.
The unusual variety and quality of the grave goods suggests vibrant international trade or travel in this coastal community.
Here we've got a collection of small yellow glass beads. This pendant looks like it's gold, with really fine gold filigree on it. These are imported. These might come from as far afield as India. So it really encapsulates how diverse and well-connected Kent was at this time.
Two of the most fascinating graves were excavated and their contents removed early in the dig. Tim Allen is lead archaeologist on site.
In this large rectangular burial was the skeleton of a horse and of a large wolf-sized dog.
Next to the two animals, the remains of a man who seems to have earned great respect.
He had a sword with a ring on it and a jewel set into the sword, which marked it as a royal gift sword.
Perhaps the sword was bestowed by a king or local leader for the same fearlessness that led to a brutal death.
The shield was placed over the skull, and when we lifted the boss up, we realised why, because the skull had been crushed in, and it looked as if they'd placed the shield over his face as a sign of respect for the person who died, or in this case, we suspect, was killed in battle.
In another grave, an impressive sword is carefully prepared for lifting.
Joe and Kirsty are now beginning to excavate the sea axe. It's called a sea axe. It's more like a short sword than a knife, or a large knife. It's thought that the name Saxon is actually derived from the word sea axe, because possession of a knife signified status as a free person in early Anglo-Saxon society. It would be suspended from a belt, and we can see the belt buckle there. And we know that this is probably a 7th century buckle, probably early 7th century.
From the bones to the artefacts, analysis of these burials will help to paint a clearer picture of 6th and 7th century life in Kent.
Many Anglo-Saxon cemeteries have been found in Kent over the years. They come up every so often. But there's some things here that are exceptional.
Next, the finds need to be cleaned and protected from the damage moisture in the air can cause, while also uncovering any information they may be hiding. Expert conservator Dana Goodburn-Brown has set herself up in the Digging for Britain tent to show me a few trade secrets and some of the best finds from the Deal dig.
Oh, Dana, I just can't believe how many finds you've got here, and this is just from 1 or 2 graves?
2 graves,
Two
yeah.
graves.
Incredible.
That's amazing. Can I pick that up?
Yep.
So have you started to conserve this yet?
There's micro evidence that's there, so I want to be really go slow with cleaning and understanding it before I start cleaning it.
So your work really is the next stage in the analysis after excavation, isn't it? That all these objects get carefully packaged up, sent to your lab, and you start to micro-excavate them.
Yeah, micro excavation is exactly right. But I can't go whipping off the corrosion because if you look really closely, you see all sorts of things.
Using her stereoscopic digital microscope,
Dana gently cleans a 7th century disc brooch found in the grave of a woman.
I'm right now looking at a garnet. There's different types of beading on one brooch. It's mind-boggling.
So you can judge depth as you're cleaning it?
I can, and otherwise I would not dare be taking even soft tools like a thorn because it would be so easy to scratch.
So you're using a thorn?
Yeah, a black thorn. And also I have a porcupine quill I use as well.
So all instruments which aren't going to scratch the surface, so you know you're not going to damage it when you're cleaning it.
And when it's very hard, then I would use my scalpel.
You can just see, as you do it, as you touch it with the scalpel tip, you can see the dirt flaking away. Conservation's not just about cleaning objects, it's about analysing them, understanding their construction, their makeup.
Absolutely. The making is so fine. I mean, you almost need a microscope to see the details of how they did it. All the wires are handmade.
The detail's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
For even greater detail, Dana has used an electron microscope to magnify a tiny part of the warrior's sword handle.
Oof. What's that?
And an unexpected guest.
I think that's a little tick, maybe?
It looks like a tick. Entombed in copper. So we're getting all those kind of environmental clues.
So we've got the artifact, but then we've got little micro-eco facts kind of in there too. I'll send samples to a friend of mine in organic residue analysis, and so she can tell me if there's maybe honey there, or and then we can look at the proteins now. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information coming out of burials now. I just want to have a look again at these very beautiful objects. I mean, that lovely pendant. What was that? What was it part of?
That was found near the sword, so it's part of the sword embellishments.
And again, we've got those garnets.
And the little sparkly gold foil underneath.
Yeah.
And then gold around the outer cell, and then silver on the inner cells.
It's astonishing detail, absolutely beautiful, and that's just part of what would have been a very decorated sword fitting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coins to the eyes.
For our next dig, we're staying with the Anglo-Saxons. In the 8th century, the flat, marshy fenlands of eastern England were the perfect place to come.
If you're a would-be saint seeking out splendid isolation to get closer to God. But what is the reality? Who were these medieval saints, really? We can hope to get closer to the truth through a combination of archaeological and historical research.
In the Lincolnshire Fens is a site where it's claimed a hugely influential early medieval monk lived out his most pious years. Here in the early 8th century, this man achieved Christian megastar status for renouncing his riches and embracing the life of a hermit. His name was Guthlac. After his death, Guthlac was made a saint and therefore ascended to heaven to be next to God. But back here on Earth, there's very little hard evidence about his life. Archaeologist Hugh Wilmot is on a mission to change that.
We know from historical sources that in the year 699, Guthlac came here and lived in sort of splendid isolation and built a sort of hermitage. In the 7th century, it would look completely different. It would have been quite a desolate wasteland, so it's an ideal place for Guthlac to come to sort of seek solitude from the world.
Hugh's team are forensically sifting the site for evidence dated to Guthlac's time here, half a mile from Crowland village, in the early 8th century.
We've been finding some really interesting finds that are early medieval in date. So we've got some fairly typical Anglo-Saxon pottery of the time, which is fairly crude, it's fairly heavy, but it's functional everyday ceramics.
Guthlac's home was said to be a simple dwelling dug into a mound in a desolate field.
Well, we've been finding quite a bit of worked flint, particularly in the sort of central area of the site. And it feeds into the Guthlak's story, because we're told by the chroniclers that he came here and actually made his dwelling in the side of an old barrow, so, you know, prehistoric barrow, presumably. And we are now finding evidence for prehistoric activity here.
There may not be much to see of Guthlak's daily life, but excavation supervisor Duncan Wright has uncovered the foundations of a large structure, possibly built in honour of Guthlak after he died in 714.
This appears to be the western limit of our building. We have a large wall in the trench here. That's the interior of the building. We're particularly excited about this structure because it is orientated perfectly east-west. It's substantially built of stone. This may well be an early medieval church of some description.
In nearby Crowland, a monument was built soon after Guthlak's death at the age of 41. The original Crowland Abbey, rebuilt several times over the centuries, was founded to honour the saint.
The monks here at Crowland Abbey held his relics, and people would travel far and wide to come and visit his shrine. And you can tell from the richness of the church quite how much money this would also have generated for them through the sort of pilgrimage trade.
This dig raises a fascinating question. How did this apparently reclusive hermit become such an important figure in the early days of the Christian church in Britain? Historian Onyeka Nubia has travelled to Cambridge University to investigate.
As a historian, part of my job is to try and unpack the fact from the fiction.
The arcs of history are long, and St Guthlak's life is one of those obscure moments on those Lincolnshire fens in Crowland, all the way till now, 1,300 years later, we are still talking about this man.
This simple hermit's life led to the creation of a key site of Christian pilgrimage, later promoted by one book. It was written shortly after Guthlak died in 714 by a monk called Felix. It's incredibly rare, and Dr. Philippa Hoskin of the Faculty of Divinity has agreed to show me a copy.
So Philippa, I'm interested in learning about Guthlak's journey. Where did he start? Who was he? And why did he end up being this saint?
Well, to start with, he's the son of a nobleman. And when he's about 15, we can see from what it tells us in this book, et juveni impectore, and his young heart is filled with a desire for dominatione, for power.
He says love, doesn't it? Is that quite strong there, to say that he had a love for power?
Yes. So he becomes a warlord, if you like, and he starts going out and raiding. He gets money, booty, more people who follow him.
So this is what he's doing as a young man. And then he has a revelation, is it?
After 9 years, he gives up what he's doing and he goes to live in a monastery.
There's an old idea that to want to be poor, you have to be rich in the first place. Because no one wants to actually be poor who's poor. It's only the rich that want to be poor or think that there's some virtue in it.
Yeah, it's about renunciation, isn't it? He's experienced that secular power and he can go and look for something else.
The book tells us that Guthlak found the life of a medieval monk still too indulgent, so he seeks a closer connection to God.
It says here, illuminatio cordis gremio.
Illuminati is a fantastic word, isn't it? Obviously, we get the English word illumination from it, but it's almost like he's seen the light.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has. And it says he wants to go into the Heretum here, into the desert. Of course, this is Lincolnshire, and he decides that he's going to be this sort of hermit.
So he wants to be in touch with nature because he feels it will make him closer to God.
He wants to struggle. He wants to suffer.
It is Guthlak's sacrifice as a hermit that makes him famous, including the most frugal diet possible.
Pilente aquae. It's a muddy, horrible water.
Panis is bread, isn't it?
Panis is bread. He's eating tiny bits of bread.
So this text is going into a lot of detail about what he's wearing,
Yeah.
what he's consuming, and how he's living, to paint a picture for us that this is someone who's living an aesthetic lifestyle, a lifestyle that are like the saints.
Yes, absolutely. You know somebody is a saint because they behave like a saint.
So this book would draw people to Crowland. It's an advert for a pilgrimage that includes Crowland. It's almost a roadmap to divinity.
Absolutely.
This account of Guthlac's life, written so soon after his death, is advertising to the faithful that giving up your possessions brings you closer to God. And what better way to give them up than by giving them to the church in the name of Guthlac?
So within a few centuries, from obscure lives like St. Guthlac, the English church became part of an international economic, political powerhouse.
It's time to journey back to the East Midlands and the site where we started off our archaeological tour, our very special Roman mosaic dig in a farmer's wheat field.
Come with me, John.
But attention has shifted from the small piece of mosaic I helped uncover when I first visited.
Show you what your task is for the day.
That's because there's big news. Digging on the rest of the mosaic is on hold thanks to a new discovery in the layers above it.
So the chances are that in here, although we can't see it yet, we've actually got a grave cut.
If there's a grave here, there could well be human bone, so the team must proceed cautiously to avoid destroying vital evidence. Jen Browning is in charge of the dig team.
It's actually quite exciting because we've discovered the remains of a human body, basically.
These remains could hold clues to the people who occupied this site after the original villa's owners.
The villa has fallen down or, been demolished, and the burial is actually on top of that. So it's likely to be very late Roman or possibly Saxon. So really exciting stuff for us.
No, it's broken. This is going into the box. Hopefully the rest will just lift off.
One of the more unexpected discoveries has been made by former county archaeologist Peter Liddell.
One bizarre thing is the skull was entirely full of snails. So all of those came out of inside the skull. But I have never seen that inside a skull before. So whether we have vicious brain-eating snails in Rutland, I'm not sure, which is a little bit weird.
I am a human bone expert, so whenever I hear about burials, my ears prick up, and I've had a chat to John and Jen, and they are very happy for me to start having a look at the bones which emerged from that main room in the villa. They're very fragmentary, but if we wash them, I might be able to tell something about the people that were buried here once the villa fell into disuse. So, Kirsty, you actually excavated these bones, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I found part of the skull as we were cleaning back the soil.
And do you think it was just one burial?
We think it might be two.
Yeah.
Because we could see 4 sets of legs.
Right, OK. What looks like a tray of random bones might tell us some revealing details about who the two people buried here were. Trying to organise things by region of the body, so we've got a really nice set of bones from the hand here, metacarpals which are in the palm of the hand, and then we've also got some of these phalanges, which are the finger bones. So there's a whole set of finger bones there, that's rather nice. And then we've also got a nice bit of the jaw. So I'm noticing a difference here. Are you noticing a difference in the teeth that we're getting?
Those ones seem very worn.
Yeah, so these anterior teeth are completely worn down. And in this jawbone, there's a space here where, in fact, the molars have gone, and they've gone a long time before death. This bone has had a chance to essentially heal over those sockets. So this is probably quite an elderly person, as opposed to... So that's a premolar there, And that's another premolar.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot less wear on that.
So I suspect we've got an older person here and a much younger person here. So it is useful. I know it's painstaking, isn't it, doing this, but it is actually all very useful because to be able to hopefully look at age and sex and other bits of pathology as well. Just start to give these people a bit of biography, a bit of identity.
Yeah.
With bones still emerging out of the ground and progress on the mosaic still stalled, I catch up with what's been discovered in the mosaic's neighbouring trench. I've got to be quite careful about where I tread here, but I've been told I can go down this little ramp and tread on this area. Don't want to walk over anything that's just been cleaned. Jeremy.
Hi.
Hello. Jeremy Taylor from Leicester University is supervising this part of the dig.
Welcome.
This looks exciting. You've very definitely got walls here.
Yes, and quite a complicated array of them as well.
So what have you got here then? You've got a room here that you're standing in.
That's right. And essentially, if you see running across the trench, pretty much where you're standing, right the way across, is the northern end of a large stone-built building, probably from east to west, round about 14, 15 metres long.
Who would have lived in a place like this, Jeremy?
In all probability, you know, a very wealthy Roman landowner, a regional notable, somebody who's, you know, a very powerful individual in local society.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because you're getting a glimpse of stratification of Roman society.
Absolutely. Places like this are very important, not just as a country seat to bring your friends and other peers to, but also as a fundamental part of who you are and maintaining your status and wealth.
So at the moment, we've got this large main building with the fantastic mosaic in it.
Yeah.
That's where the landowner and perhaps his family are living.
Yeah.
I think this is where he's installed his mother-in-law.
Possibly, although I hope we haven't found her, that's the only thing.
It's clear that the scale of Roman building on this site was impressive. And itching to get another look at that mosaic, I've found a way to see how part of it may once have looked. Ooh, so this is the drawing you made on site last year?
Yes, it's drawn at a 1 to 10 scale using a 1 metre drawing grid. And then paint it, tesserae by tesserae.
David Neal has spent decades painstakingly recording Roman mosaics and then painting them by hand to reveal their original glory. It's mind-blowing, the detail. So how many tesserae are represented in this part of the mosaic that's already been uncovered?
Well, I should think in that section there are at least 60,000 at a guess.
Yeah.
I suspect we may have to paint yet another 30 to 40,000 tesserae.
Oh my goodness, and you are painting them individually?
Yes.
Was it obvious to you, particularly as soon as you saw the mosaic, that it was a story of the Trojan War?
Yes, it is clearly the Trojan War.
From what we've seen so far, the mosaic appears to be a dramatic illustration of what is perhaps the Trojan War's bloodiest passage, when the Greek warrior Achilles kills the Trojan Prince Hector, then drags his corpse around Troy, finally demanding that Hector's grieving father, King Priam, pays his son's weight in gold for the return of the body. Is that a common theme for a Roman mosaic?
There are subjects, various aspects of the Trojan War, but it'd just be one small scene.
Yeah.
Here you've got these 3 scenes, and this is what is remarkable about it.
So that's completely unique?
Yes.
Yeah. David is having to be just as patient as me, as, tantalisingly, I'm going to leave the team to it for a few more days. But when I return, I'll be helping David uncover the entire mosaic, revealing the whole story of what those Romans left behind in this field over 1,600 years ago.
We dig for the gods that leave no bones, for the ship, the sail, and the sun can see the vessel aloft in the sky of stone, the famine road and the merchant's quay.
The fertile fields of eastern England have long sustained the cereal crops needed to make that elixir of medieval life. Ale, vast quantities of it must have been produced and drunk. But how is it made and what did it taste like? We catch up with some archaeologists on a quest to answer those very important questions. We now make our way back east to the coast of North Norfolk and the village of Sedgeford. With Roman influence waning, a new culture started to emerge in early 5th century Britain, a culture linked to Germanic tribes across the North Sea and incomers bringing with them new habits and customs. In 2013, archaeologist Dr. Ellie Blakelock found a settlement after a geophysical survey revealed intriguing evidence in the corner of a field in Sedgeford. Since then, an annual summer dig for volunteer archaeologists has been helping piece together what once happened here.
We found some hot spots that suggested that there was some form of hot working process. We originally thought it was going to be iron working, but when we actually excavated and started working on the site, we realised quite quickly that they were nothing to do with metal working. They were something else.
In fact, Ellie had discovered an industry of a completely different kind. It turns out this massive site was part of a huge malting operation used to make the vital ingredient for the most popular drink of Anglo-Saxon times, ale.
What we have here is we have a steeping tank. Now, this is a clay-lined structure, and we think that there were originally sides to it here and another one that's actually on this side here.
Steeping the harvested grain in this water tank was the first step of the malting process.
And what you do is you lower your grain into this water and it soaks into the grain and it starts the germination process, which is so important for the beer making process.
Buried in the ground, Ellie's found evidence of tools that show what a large-scale operation this was.
And what we have here is we have a wonderful iron hook, and they would have used that to lever the grain into the water and take it back up again.
The soaked grain was then spread across this clay floor to continue germinating.
So waiting for the little shoots and the little rootlets to start forming in the grain. And that tells them that it's starting to build up sugars and starch. And that is what's really, really useful and important for the malt and for actually creating your beer.
At least 5 kilns have also been found on the site. These would have been used to dry the malted grain, stopping germination. One reveals an incredible link to the maltsters of the distant past.
But what's really remarkable about it is you can actually see the fingerprints and smears of the Anglo-Saxons from when they actually repaired the kiln. And it's so nice to be able to sort of almost touch and feel the people in the past.
In a fascinating effort to reveal even more about the ancient Anglo-Saxon malting process here, PhD student Hannah Carrow is using a flotation tank to separate out burnt grains unearthed at the site.
Right, so here we have a bucket of sediment from the north end of Kiln 2. I'm just going to put some of it into the tank here. Burnt seeds which are light float to the surface of the water, and then they collect in the bucket, and you can begin to see a piece of some charcoal and some seeds down there, which is exciting.
Hannah can now identify exactly which cereal grains were used to make the malt using a microscope.
So quite excitingly, these grains are 1,200 years old from the Middle Saxon times. So we've got here, there's a big barley grain quite badly damaged down there. So this is a wheat grain. This is the most common wheat grown today and also in the Anglo-Saxon period. And lots of rye, the most common kind of grain at Sedgeford. It's unusual to find a site with such a high proportion of rye. So that's interesting.
The discovery of these 3 cereal crops has led archaeologists to one conclusion.
We find all 3 types of grain, the rye, the wheat and the barley, in pretty much every single sample from Sedgeford, which potentially suggests that they were being grown together in one field and harvested together and then malted together to make beer, which was made from all 3 types of grain.
The high proportion of rye is unusual in British malting, and it could say something about the ancient ale makers of North Norfolk.
The fact that we've got the rye here does suggest that link back to their ancestral homelands where they're using rye on a more regular basis, and it probably suggests that what's happening is the Anglo-Saxons have brought across their technology for beer making and for malt making, and what we're seeing is sort of the continuation of that process.
Perhaps the best way to understand the effect of using all that rye is to brew some ale with it. Dr. Stuart Pryor has come to meet an expert home brewer to get a taste of the past.
Now, I like an ale as much as the next early medieval archaeologist. So understanding the Saxon brewing process feels like perfect experimental archaeology to me. Hi, John.
Hello, Stuart.
Nice fire you've got going. I understand you're a Saxon brewing historian.
Yes. I've done a few early medieval brews based on the best part of 6 months of evenings in the Imperial College and Science Museum libraries, exploring various old books and reference books referring back, and came up with an idea of some recipes.
You've got some beer for me to try?
I have indeed. I've had some just here. Excuse container.
OK.
This has travelled a bit, so it's got a bit cloudy.
John's research led him to create an Anglo-Saxon ale recipe that, unlike the Sedgeford blend, uses plenty of barley, but zero rye. The barley ale is flavoured with honey and a plant the Anglo-Saxons found on riverbanks and marshes, bog myrtle. God, that's not bad, is it?
It's a nice brew.
That's not bad. Wow, that's actually really sweet.
It is. The honey does that. It's not meant to get you drunk, it's meant to be a nice, pleasant drink.
It is pleasant. I'm surprised at how good it is. John's going to recreate a beer based on the unusual grain ratios found at Sedgeford. 10% barley, 20% wheat and 70% rye. So this is the rye.
Yeah. 2/3 rye, yes.
So 2/3 rye.
Yep. And here is crushed rye. Rye is much more unusual in brewing.
This makes the product.
Yes, if you smell that, it's got a really aromatic smell to it.
Smells like, well, beer.
Exactly. And that will infuse into the liquid. We put it with the water and the flavourants.
And that would have made a fairly good beer, or?
I'm not sure. As I say, I've always done single brews, so it'll be interesting to see what it comes out like.
Next, John has to steep his mix of crushed grains. So you've got your 3 grains.
I have indeed. There's the rye, there's the barley, and here's the wheat. And you do that simmer now for about 1.5 to 2 hours.
After cooling and fermenting for 4 days, John's experimental Sedgeford rye ale will be ready to drink. But in another time-honoured tradition, here's one he made earlier. It's definitely drinkable. I prefer it to water, but it's very earthy. Very earthy.
Yes, it would need flavouring.
So this is a good way of protecting your health as well as providing.
And also boiling it would kill off any parasites the water has picked up through storage or whatever else, of course.
I'll just try it again just to make sure. It's going to taste nicer the more I've drunk.
As the night goes on, yes, certainly.
Whether or not the Anglo-Saxons knew it was the boiling that made their beer safer to drink than water, it's fascinating they malted their grain on such an industrial scale at Sedgeford. Cheers.
Cheers.
The rye-rich brew isn't quite as Moorish as John's sweetly flavoured Anglo-Saxon barley ale. It's definitely strong. But at least it's not going to kill me. Thank God I'm not driving home. Honestly, it's strong.
Our Anglo-Saxon digs have given us glimpses into lifestyles and characters from those early medieval centuries. Fascinating weaponry and jewellery, certainly, but very little evidence of interior decoration. Thankfully, those show-offs, the Romans, have compensated as I return to perhaps the most extraordinary find ever to feature on Digging for Britain. Right, I'm back in this field. I was here about 2 weeks ago, just starting to uncover that amazing mosaic. And this site was promising to be maybe the most significant Roman discovery in Britain for at least the last few decades. And I can't wait to see if it's living up to those expectations. Jim, hello.
Hi.
Farmer's son Jim discovered the mosaic back in 2020. It's taken until now to get this unique piece of art history back open.
Tingling with anticipation here, Jim. Oh, look at this.
It's my first proper look at what's hoped is around half of the mosaic.
Wow. Gosh, it is big, isn't it? That's the part I helped to uncover 2 weeks ago, just there.
There's so much colour, isn't it?
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? I mean, to you, this is just one of the fields on the family farm. You're really familiar with it. And then suddenly it's not just one of the fields.
What have we got?
It's
Yeah, incredible.
really, really incredible. Right, I'm going to go and have a chat to John. Where is he? He's over there, isn't he?
Yep.
I'll
Enjoy.
catch up with you in a bit.
With this half of the mosaic back out in the open, it should be possible to start exposing more, if indeed it survives, and hopefully we'll see more imagery from this legendary moment in Greek mythology, the brutal slaying of Hector by Achilles during the Trojan War. John Thomas is overseeing this delicate operation.
It's amazing. It's wonderful to see a mosaic coming up like this, and you're finding new bits of it.
We're getting new bits. We are moving into the apse, and we're moving across the room into the areas that we unexcavated last year.
So do you think that this mosaic goes all the way up to that wall over there?
That's what we're hoping.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, basically what we're seeing is a sort of design, like a comic strip, really,
Yeah.
over 3 panels telling the story.
I'm kind of itching to get in there, actually. Do you need more help?
That would be grateful.
Yeah, OK.
I think we've got enough shovels for everybody here, haven't we?
Everyone's on a mission to get the rest of the earth cleared as soon as possible.
So this is the scene from the Iliad, the end of the battle. This is really exciting now. So this is the body of Hector that we've got coming up here.
Mosaic artist David Neal, who at the age of 80 seems to be working harder than just about anybody here, is letting me uncover what we hope is the face of a dead Hector.
This is his, there's his abdomen, and these are wounds on his abdomen. He's got wounds on his chest, and under here, we're expecting to find the head. Is the face of Hector. There are the eyes, just coming up.
May intrude into the next panel. It'll be interesting if it does.
There he is. His eyes and his nose, where Hector, who I think might be dead at this point, is being dragged behind the chariot of Achilles, dragged around the walls of Troy. And you can see his body here. His legs have disappeared in that area of damage, but we can see his arm coming up here.
The archaeologists had feared the large patch of what appears to be fire damage in the middle could run all the way across. But with each new perfectly preserved tessera we reveal, the picture becomes clearer in all its gory detail.
David, how common is it for mosaics to have figures on?
It's quite rare. You get little scenes where you've got 1 or 2 figures in isolation, in separate panels.
Yeah.
Various mosaics around Britain, but nothing on this scale.
Really?
No,
Really?
nothing at all. Here you've got the whole story spread out.
Yeah. That is fascinating because, you know, what we're seeing here is the archaeology that survives, and it's hinting at a much richer material culture.
Yes.
All the paper that we don't get, all the vellum that we don't get,
yes. Obviously a very educated man who owned this.
Mm.
Yes.
Somebody who could read the story.
Read the story in both perhaps Greek and Latin.
Yeah. Once again, we've got this astonishing preservation here where luck has played a huge role. We had a face of Achilles there which had barely survived being lost forever, with an area of damage which came right up to his forehead, and we've got exactly the same thing here with Hector.
At last, the final crumbs of earth are brushed away.
I'm just getting rid of most of the water from this.
It's time for David to demonstrate one of his tricks of the trade.
When you pour water, I want that amount of water poured in, but no more. And then you've got to come to me with the water.
This unique, rapid mosaic washing technique rinses away the dust and brightens the tesserized colours. Finally, after perhaps 1600 years, human eyes can once again appreciate the craftsmanship and artistry of this dining room floor.
What's extraordinary is that although we've got areas of damage, we can still see what each of those panels represents.
Yes.
This is the story of the climax of the Trojan War. Tell me what we're looking at here.
Well, the first panel is the contest between Achilles and Hector.
Hector, the Trojan prince, facing off Achilles with the Greeks.
Yeah.
Hector over on the right-hand side. And then we've got that magnificent chariot that Achilles is driving.
That's right.
And even though a lot of Achilles is missing, his face survives.
His face survives. And what I like is the fact that the horses are represented in different colours, both sides. And then in the middle, Achilles wins, and Hector's body is being dragged around the walls of Troy, and Priam pleading with Achilles to be merciful.
So Priam is the king of Troy.
He's the king of Troy.
As
his son. He's seeing his body being dragged around the walls of Troy. And of course, Achilles is not going to let him have the body back without his weight in gold.
We are looking at a brutal Bronze Age story.
Yes,
Yeah.
really nasty. And then the final scene represents King Priam has come to Achilles' camp with the gold to recover the body. We have these three wonderful scenes of the Iliad. It's quite amazing.
And we're seeing it in all its glory. You must be so pleased, John.
Oh, absolutely. And there's much more of it than we could have hoped for, really.
At the beginning of the dig, you were suggesting, David, that this was an incredibly significant discovery. You've seen so many Roman mosaics over the course of your career. Why is this one so special?
It's figured, it's animated, it's a copy of or pages of a book. It's telling us so much, not just, I mean, it's joyous to look at, but it's telling us so much about the villa proprietor. I think that's wonderful. And it's probably one of the finest mosaics in Northern Europe on this theme.
What is so astounding about this is that nobody had any idea that this villa was here, that this extraordinary mosaic was here. And now this year, with it fully uncovered, we can see the story, and it is a story. It's not just decoration. It's a story that's been passed down through generations, and here we are in an English field so far away from Troy, revealing this story again. So we might think we know everything about Roman Britain, but we're only just starting to uncover the story right here. Everywhere you look, the rich history of the United Kingdom is there to be seen. But hidden beneath our feet, there's still a wealth of archaeological treasure just waiting to be found. That's why each year, all across the country, our archaeologists dig, dive, and explore their way down.
Oh my God! Some of the best stuff you're ever going to see.
Oh, wow.
Here we go, arrowhead.
Searching for fresh discoveries.
Hypercaust!
Revealing the imprint of ancient civilizations.
It's been there for 5,500 years.
And unearthing fascinating objects.
Fantastic decoration. Any musket balls yet, Aaron?
Wow, look at that.
Every dig adds new pieces to the ever-growing archaeological jigsaw that is the epic story of our islands.
And I'm down.
This year, I visit digs in some extraordinary locations and solve mysteries using cutting-edge tools.
Oh,
Oh, this is wonderful. I'm joined by a trio of expert investigators.
So you can see how that gives you a really unique signature.
That's right. Excellent.
So they were using food as a type of bribery.
Who dig deeper to answer the questions raised by the finds.
That's how he got away with it.
Exactly.
Finally, the archaeologists bring their best discoveries into our tent.
Yeah, it's a cracking find.
For up-close analysis.
So it's completely unique in Britain. That's wonderful.
Welcome to Digging for Britain. This time we're seeking out the best digs and discoveries in the south of Britain. On the Kent coast, we raise the wreck of a medieval ship in stunning condition.
Some of the samples we've had feel so fresh that you can still smell the tar.
We discover that Bishop Stortford may be built on a previously unknown Roman town.
We've been absolutely blown away by the scale of what we've found so far.
And I explore beneath perhaps the most famous castle in the world.
See, it's got a splash of gold along here.
Yeah, just this edge here.
To uncover evidence of Henry VIII's industrial-scale fraud.
And he was known as Old Copper Nose.
There you go, that's why.
Throughout history, the south of Britain has often been the first point of contact with the continent for the spread of ideas, culture, and people, as well as the front line for any invading armies, like the Romans, who changed Britain forever. We know that the Romans built plenty of forts, garrisons, and towns across Britain, and many of them have been extensively archaeologically investigated, and we even know the names of some of them. But others, it seems, have slipped under the radar to lie forgotten in the landscape for centuries. It seems extraordinary that an entire town could disappear in this way, but it's even more exciting when it suddenly reappears. Our first dig takes us to Bishop Stortford, 22 miles south of Cambridge. The Domesday Book tells us that in 1086 there were just 29 households here. Then, throughout the medieval period, it grew, developing into the familiar market town we see today. Little is known, though, about life here before this time. But we do know a crucial ancient road passed through this area, built by the Romans. This vital road was called Stane Street. It linked St Albans to Colchester, and here it crossed the River Stort. But very little evidence of Roman settlement has ever been found at Bishop Stortford. Now, planned upgrades to a leisure centre are giving a team from Oxford Archaeology a chance to investigate the town's ancient past. The road itself is easy to identify.
So this is Stane Street. These stones are the ones that were laid by the Romans to make the surface of their road that they walked on about 2,000 years ago.
But it's discoveries being made alongside the road which has county archaeologist Greer Dewdney so excited.
This here is a stone building that we've got on site. And we are now starting to think that it is possible that it's actually a temple structure. That's really exciting because that adds another facet to this whole settlement. It gives another reason for people to stop on their passage along Stane Street and visit this place.
This stone-built structure is good evidence that a community lived here, and the sheer amount of small personal items being unearthed is a strong sign of how big that community was.
There's a Roman coin here.
Oh, lovely.
You can just make out his head there.
As well as coins, the team is turning up hundreds of pieces of Roman pottery, animal bones and intriguing decorative objects. Neil Mason is supervising the dig.
This is my personal favourite from the site so far. It's made from copper alloy, and it's a lion's head fitting. Initially, when it came up with the metal detector, we thought it was quite modern, just because it's in such good condition. It's normally the kind of thing you see in a museum.
More evidence for the scale of the Roman community here is emerging on the other side of the site, where the team have uncovered a large cemetery.
We've got a lot more burials than we were expecting. We were expecting around 20 or 30, and we've actually got something like 60 to 70 so far. What's nice about this particular burial is we have the surviving grave marker, or at least a portion of it. We've been absolutely blown away by the scale of what we've found so far.
The wealth and density of finds suggests a sizable population lived here. Could this be an undiscovered Roman town?
It's only with this excavation that we're starting to understand just how significant, both regionally and nationally, this site could be.
And this, hopefully, is only the tip of the iceberg of what we might uncover as the excavation continues.
During the weeks after our visit, the discoveries at Bishop Stortford's Roman settlement kept on coming. To get the latest on just how big the settlement was and who was living there, I invited project manager Andy Grief to the Digging for Britain tent with some of the best finds and a new survey image of the site. Andy, you've got a plan of your excavations against these kind of ghost-like images. What is that?
Those are crop marks visible from satellite imagery, and they really show that this settlement is far more extensive than the bits that we've seen in our excavations.
Yeah. Was there any idea that there would be this level of Roman activity?
It came as a bit of a surprise to everyone. We had no idea that the settlement was so expansive or so sort of busy as well, busy and rich.
And this was an incredibly finds-rich excavation.
Absolutely, yes.
The quantity and variety of high-quality costume adornments suggests the presence of some very well-dressed Romans. I want to start with these beautiful copper alloy objects. I mean, we've got some lovely brooches here, lots of different styles. Are they from different centuries?
A lot of our brooches are sort of 2nd and 3rd century. We've got some really nice examples of military-style brooches.
So military personnel in the area?
Yes.
That's lovely. And then over here we've got something a bit different, haven't we? Because those look like hairpins.
Exactly, so more sort of evidence of women at the settlement and of personal care and hygiene, really, as well.
And what's this?
That's actually a mirror, or part of a mirror. It's a fragment of a mirror.
That's a rare object, isn't it?
You don't find them very often at all, no.
No. So it's copper alloy, probably bronze.
And just polished up to a shine.
Yeah. And wonderful to still have that mirrored surface. Can't quite see myself in it, but it's almost there.
And that came out of the ground shining, so you can imagine how that was for someone to find.
Yeah. And this, I think, is wonderful because this is a piece of pretty classic Samian ware, but there's this.
That's called a pot mend, where they've put back together a broken piece of pot.
So we tend to think of Samian ware as being, in some ways, high status, but also vast quantities of it are being made in Gaul and shipped over. But, obviously, whoever owned this one liked it enough that they didn't just throw it away and get a new one, that they actually mended it.
Well, even connected to the continent as they are in this settlement, it's still an expensive piece of pottery to have, so you'd mend it if you could.
Yeah. Those are lovely personal and decorative objects, but also you've got some coins, so these are fantastic for dating. So what do these tell us about the longevity of the settlement?
Well, we've got coins from the 1st century all the way through to the 4th century, so that we know that activity on the site lasted for that long.
OK, so who've we got? This is like a who's who of Roman emperors. That is Claudius, the emperor who headed up the invasion. So that's 1st century.
Absolutely.
What about this one? Looks like it might be legible as well. That's Maximian.
He's right at the end of the 3rd century.
Really lovely little portrait on that one.
And then some smaller coins here. Do they tend to get smaller through time?
Absolutely. If you're getting smaller Roman coins, they're generally going to be 4th century. So we know that this settlement, which we think was established towards the end of the 1st century, stayed in use in some form or other for several hundred years.
Yeah, yeah. So how does this add to our knowledge? What does this tell us about Roman Stortford that we didn't know before?
Well, it tells us that a lot more activity took place in this part of Hertfordshire than was previously known. You'd have seen people from all walks of life, and this excavation, along with the crop mark evidence, really shows the scale of this site.
It's big enough to be called a town.
It certainly is, yes.
Wow. Thank you for bringing these in. They've got stories to tell.
Let's gather ourselves to the heavens above. We can always come back, my love.
In the centuries after the Romans withdrew, Anglo-Saxon kingdoms began to form in the southeast of England. Regions with familiar names like Sussex and Essex date from this time, the early medieval period. One of the most powerful early medieval kingdoms straddled the centre of the island. Its name was Mercia. And our next dig takes place at its southern gateway, the village of Cookham, 14 miles northeast of Reading.
This is the Thames. It was an incredibly important trade route all through the centuries. And here in Cookham, there's a church which we know goes back to Norman times, but archaeologists believe that it has a much earlier foundation and that it once was at the heart of a large monastic settlement, a monastic settlement that's associated with one of the most influential people in early medieval Britain. Her name was Queen Cunithryth.
When her husband, King Offa, died in 796, Cunithryth became Queen of Mercia. Tantalisingly, we know she spent the later years of her life at a monastery somewhere here in Cookham, but no one has ever found a trace of it. Now, a team from the University of Reading is on the hunt, here, next to the church. Gabor Thomas is leading the dig.
So this church obviously draws the eye today, and there are elements of it that are medieval, possibly bits of it that do go back to the Norman period. But you think this was a site for an earlier monastic settlement then?
So there very likely was a precursor to this church standing in Anglo-Saxon times. And 9 times out of 10, you find that the Anglo-Saxon version of the church is either under the footprint of the Norman successor or very close by. And there could have been maybe a settlement or a complex, so that's a possible sort of scenario here.
Gabor's geophysical surveys in the field alongside the church showed tantalising clues of archaeological remains. So he set up his department here and sent in his students.
I am currently in a hole at Cookham Field School, and I'm going to show you how we've progressed since day 1. And what we've managed to do is dig a series of slots from east to west.
The huge area of land they've stripped hasn't been used since medieval times, which is great news for their quest to find evidence of the monastery and perhaps the famous Anglo-Saxon queen herself.
Ivy, it needs to come that way.
It's going to be very similar.
Yep, there you go.
It's been a very busy few weeks.
So here we have a hole, which we believe they dug to retrieve building material.
And in the big trench, the team is finding evidence of a vibrant Anglo-Saxon community that might have supported a monastery.
I'm looking at that patch of pale gravel running through the middle. Is that something archaeological?
Yes, it is. It's really significant. It's an Anglo-Saxon street surface.
Is it?
Yep.
That's the actual road surface?
That's right. The Anglo-Saxon people that lived in this settlement would have walked across.
Right, can we get down in the trench and have a look at some of these features then?
Absolutely, let's go.
A stone road like this is an extraordinary feature for an early medieval settlement.
I mean, it's well constructed, this road, isn't it? It's not just a, thin veneer of material over the top of a trackway.
That's right. You don't get engineered roads like this in typical Anglo-Saxon settlements. It's telling us something about its special status, in other words.
Yeah.
The team are also finding traces of buildings where food was prepared on a large scale.
We've identified some hearths in a row, there and there. So we're saying it's a medieval Greggs setup.
So you've got large buildings here, a really significant road running up through the middle of it. Inside these buildings, we've got bread ovens, we've got hearths. It doesn't feel particularly ecclesiastical at this point.
Yeah, that's all about production and, if you like, servicing the community that lived here.
This is what keeps it all going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In their search for traces of monastic life, the team has opened a second trench on the other side of the site.
One of the things we were prepared to come across was burials, and we have, but in a way that we wouldn't have expected. Here is the ditch, and that little spot there, I don't know if you can see it, is where we lifted the skull. And then over here are the legs.
The cemetery here has been damaged by much later medieval rubbish pits and boundary ditches.
There's a real jumble, isn't there? Because I can see the bottom of two tibiae there, the shin bones, and the fibulae next to them. And then I think that's a humerus that's kind of sticking out at an angle there. And there's a skull as well.
That's right. We're dealing with quite a tightly packed cemetery here.
And do you think it's possible that Cynethryth herself was buried here?
I think there's a very high chance that she was buried here. That would be very much the standard thing to happen. So, yeah, very high chance.
Cynethryth is unique in the early medieval world. She is the only Anglo-Saxon queen whose name appears on coins. This beautiful silver penny was minted in Canterbury in the late 8th century. The team may not yet have found a royal burial or any of Cynethryth's coins, but they have found a spectacular array of small finds and perhaps proof that this was a monastery. Finds specialist Elias Kupferman has gathered together some of the highlights.
Oh, you've got some beautiful finds here. You've got some copper alloy pins, are these?
Yes.
Would that have been do you think that's a clothing pin or a hair pin?
Maybe if we had nuns here, we believe it could be sort of a tying in a wimple.
So for pinning headgear?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
There's another more decorative one.
That's very decorative.
Yeah.
That's beautiful on the end.
Yes.
Is there anything that's particularly ecclesiastical that's coming out?
There's one thing, and that's a piece of glass.
Yeah.
And it's got this gold trailing on it.
Yeah.
And that proved to be possibly part of an inkwell.
Oh,
so you may have a scriptorium here. It could be writing here of some kind.
Yeah.
So it's quite fascinating, really.
It is. It's just so lovely, isn't it, to have that tiny fragment and to be able to draw that story out of that and to know that you've got literate people here.
Yes.
And often literacy is associated with monastic sites, ecclesiastical sites. That's lovely. Yeah.
The team are also finding early medieval coins.
Do you know when it dates to?
Roughly 8th century.
Yeah. So maybe another connection to Mercia?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
A definite connection with Cynethryth herself is proving elusive, but this dig does mean that we're finally able to start piecing together a picture of a lost monastery.
We knew that there had to be an early medieval monastery at Cookham, and we're starting to see this monastic settlement emerging before our eyes, taking us back to the time when the abbess of this monastery was here, Queen Cynethryth. It's incredible. Coastlines are constantly shape-shifting, and archaeological evidence can be destroyed by erosion or sometimes buried and preserved. And then it can re-emerge centuries later, although it's not always archaeologists who get the first glimpse.
Our next dig takes us just outside of Dungeness, 25 miles southeast of Dover. This headland has one of the largest expanses of shingle in Europe, deep banks of sand and gravel deposited by the ocean over many thousands of years. But half a kilometre back from today's shoreline, a team from Wessex Archaeology are working in a gravel quarry, recovering huge pieces of oak that have been hidden for centuries.
It's not something you see every day. It's really incredible.
Marine archaeologist Andrea Hamill was one of the first to be alerted to the discovery.
People working at the quarry were doing dredging to get gravel, and they came across sort of an obstruction.
Andrea's team sent a mini submersible to the bottom of the pond to inspect the find. It turned out to be a remarkably complete section of a very old ship's hull. The wood preservation is exceptional thanks to the wreck being locked deep beneath layers of protective waterlogged shingle.
Watch your fingers. Looking at the building techniques that were used, it looks like it could be a Tudor vessel. It brings to mind ships like the Mary Rose or especially the Gresham ship.
It's clear the ship dates back several centuries, but just how old is it? They plan to investigate by taking it apart, piece by piece. Disassembling a centuries-old ship in this condition is a rare opportunity for archaeologists like Ben Saunders to learn about the shipwright's craft straight from the source.
It's almost like we're constructing the ship in reverse. We're taking it apart, working out how people built it at the time.
Pinning the massive wooden planks in position are yet more pieces of wood.
This ship is held together with trenels, which is spelt tree nail, and that is because it is literally a tree nail. It's a round piece of oak timber usually, and these are used instead of iron nails because they could use that iron for something else. You could use it for guns, you could use it for cannon, you could use it for whatever. So we're going to take off this ceiling plank. So there's 20 odd trenels in there. Snip out as many of these as possible.
Driving wedges between the timbers allows Ben to cut the trenels.
You hear that little snapping noise just as it goes. Just sort of snipping along with the plank. Hey, it's off. There we go. Right then.
Judging by what is being unearthed, the team estimate the ship would have been more than 25 metres long, weighing perhaps more than 150 tonnes.
The component pieces are massive. The first bit we had was 6.4 metres by 3 metres. That was really, one of the biggest chunks of stuff we've had.
As each huge section is dismantled,
yeah, another one.
The team are revealing surprising construction methods.
That's still got the pine tar and grit and stuff on there. And then for some reason, when they're putting in the filling frames, they're coming through and chipping off all of the pine tar so they can get the filling frames in, which is weird.
Yeah, but see, that's what I think is so fascinating about these shipwrecks, is that they're doing things that you're not expecting. So if you weren't actually taking them apart and looking at them, you'd have no idea that this is what, or how they used to build ships.
Every piece of the wreck is painstakingly recorded with a 3D scanner.
One of the great things about using the scanner is that you can really capture the shape of the timber And once the scanning is finished, we can create 3D models of the timbers.
This technique will capture even the most minute details.
On this piece of timber here, you can actually still see tool marks along the top, which I think is really exciting. It's really neat to see how people in the past were interacting with the materials and constructing it. And some of the samples we've had still feel so fresh that you can still smell the tar.
The team think the ship is probably from the 16th century, but there is a way to narrow down the date of construction. The team have sent samples of the timber to a lab for dendrochronology dating, and Kat Jarman has come to see how it works.
I've used dates from dendrochronology a lot in my own work, but I've never actually seen how the process works. But today I've come here to meet Robert Howard, who's one of the leading specialists in this field. He's been working on the samples from the shipwreck in Kent, and hopefully he'll be able to tell us not just when those trees grew, but maybe also when the ship was built. So this is very exciting. These are the actual samples from the shipwreck, are they?
That's right, yeah. And we're going to try and date when they were cut and when they went into the shipwreck.
So now you're looking at the rings and then measuring the distance.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes. The width of each ring varies from year to year according to the weather, you see, so that in theory, good weather during the growing season produces wide rings and bad weather produces narrow rings. So there's sort of a climatic fingerprint imprinted on the sample, and we obtain that fingerprint by measuring very carefully, hundredths of a millimetre each time.
It looks quite straightforward. Can I have a go at looking
Please
through it?
feel free, yeah, dive in there, have a little look at that and see what you can see.
Okay, so that's really, really clear, isn't it? And you can see the differences. You've got some really nice and narrow ones.
Yes, yeah, something upset the tree for a few years there. And then further on, the ring has probably widened up again.
Yeah, we've got some nice, big, wide, chunky ones here. It's interesting to think of those people who were there for that year.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
how they would
yes,
experience
I very often think, you know, what was that year like?
Precisely, did they enjoy the nice, long, hot summer they clearly had? So you can see how that gives you a really unique signature.
That's right.
Really,
That's exactly what we're looking for.
But this sequence does not give Rob a date on its own. He uses a dendrochronology database to compare our tree ring sequence with thousands of other wood samples. The database shows where a sample overlaps with older or younger tree ring sequences. Crucially, this includes trees felled in the last few decades. It's these that anchor the tree ring calendar to a precise modern date. So by counting back through this long combined tree ring sequence, wood samples can be precisely placed and dated.
We've got these database of samples that we built up over the last 40 years that span from the present day back to, 4,000, 5,000 BC.
Which is astounding. Like, that's 6,000 years of
I know.
history.
That's why it's taken 40 years to build it up.
The database is also regional, so we can factor in the variations in climate found in different parts of the UK. So does that mean actually that you could, by using this method, you could actually give us the origin of the ship?
I hope we can. It would be nice to know where this ship might have come from.
Yeah. Rob compares our sample to different databases from around the world and the UK until he finds the best match in Kent.
This is an average overall Kentish chronology, and the match here is 8.6, so very high, very high. So it does suggest to me this timber that this ship is made of actually grew in Kent.
So we've narrowed down, this is a ship that was built in Kent.
Yeah.
We don't actually have a date for when it was, timbers were felled and when it was built. So can you please tell me?
We can.
By matching our sample to the Kentish dendrochronology database, we are able to get a precise date for the last tree ring in the sample.
And we've got this sample, sample 4, which has got a last ring date of 1558. But that's not exactly the felling date of the timber.
Okay.
Rob must also factor in the oak's outer sapwood to reach his final date projection.
These trees, I think, were felled in round terms between, say, 1560, but no later than 1580, I'd say.
Oh, fantastic, brilliant. So that kind of makes this, what, would that be Elizabethan then?
Yes, that's right, that's right. So this ship, in theory, could have been sharing the wind and the waters, you know, with the Armada. And, you know, it might have seen Drake, you know, sailing down the channel. You never know.
Fantastic. So from these little tiny bits of wood, we get that big story of the ship and its significance.
Yes, it's amazing what you can do with a few bits of wood, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Chancing upon an undiscovered Elizabethan shipwreck is an incredible, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But now that every plank has been recorded in detail, the team will rebury the ship close to where it was discovered. Now, Andrea Hamill from The Dig and Historic England maritime archaeologist Anthony Firth are joining me in the Digging for Britain tent. And they've brought a finished 3D model of a section of the hull so we can see it pieced back together.
This section is really beautiful, isn't it? You can really see that construction with the inner planks there.
Yes, and this is the largest section that we found. And some of the individual planks were actually 6 meters. So they're absolutely massive.
Yeah, and at the end of a project like this, you obviously have to think about what you're going to do with the material itself and consider whether it's going to be conserved and placed in a museum, for instance, or whether you preserve it in situ, and sometimes that is the best option.
Yeah, in this case, timbers like this are fantastic in that they preserve their appearance, but if they were to dry out, they would shrink and you'd lose all the detail. So in this case, the best option was to return it to the environment as close as we could to where it was recovered.
Yeah.
And hopefully, if techniques change in the future archaeologists could go back and recover the ship and do more work on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The low hills and flat plains in the south are punctuated with castles. These huge stone fortresses helped successive generations of rulers and powerful landowners control the landscape for centuries. The most famous castle in the south didn't just control the landscape, it controlled the money. Our next discovery takes us to a magnificent fortress that was at the heart of medieval England, the Tower of London.
The Tower of London was originally a Norman castle, but it's perhaps more famously associated with those stories of scheming, treachery and retribution that attended the reign of Henry VIII. But it was always much more than just a prison somewhere where traitors and heretics were incarcerated and then taken off and beheaded. It was the nucleus of Tudor power.
The Tower of London is still a royal palace and home to the crown jewels. But for more than 500 years, this was also home to the Royal Mint, where rulers like Henry VIII created their coins. This process was always kept behind tightly closed doors.
But recent renovations to what was the Royal Mint here at the Tower have given archaeologists the unique opportunity to explore what was the heart of Henry VIII's money-making machine.
I've come to meet the Tower's historic buildings curator, Alfred Hawkins, who's been assessing freshly uncovered ruins from beneath the floorboards of one of the yeoman's houses. The ruins date from the 16th century and were once an active part of the Royal Mint during Henry's reign.
Alfred, I'm OK to step down here, am I?
Yeah, of course.
And I have a rare chance to get a very close look.
Alfred, this is quite incredible archaeology that's been sealed under the floor in this building. How did it come to light?
So all of the remains you can see here were excavated in 1976 by workmen, and then this large floor was built over the top of it and just sealed it away for the last 40 years.
And what is it that I'm standing in? What is this?
So you are standing in the assay house, which is where the assaying forge lives.
What we're looking at here are what? Furnaces for the forge?
Yes, so we've got these two kind of keyhole hearths in this kind of nominal furnace part of the ruins, and then there's either a flue or some other channel coming out next to you, and there's another potential flue basically next to your feet that comes out the rear of the furnace.
So there's a void right underneath there.
Yeah, and it goes all the way through to me on this side.
What was going on in this building then? What is this forge for?
So this is the first stage of the creation of coinage. So assaying is the process of either refining gold or silver or testing its purity. So once you have a known purity of silver, you can then send that to be turned into coinage, and you would know all of those coins have the exact same amount of silver in and would be worth the same, and then could be used for trading.
So this isn't really about controlling wealth?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Private merchants brought precious metals like gold or silver to the tower to sell them to the exchequer of the mint. And Alfred has given me special access to where it's thought these transactions took place, the exchequer's office.
Alfred, you walk into this room and your eye is immediately drawn to this end and these beautiful medieval wall paintings. So when do they date to, and what is actually depicted here?
So these date to around the 1390s, and what it depicts is a largely classic crucifixion scene. So you've got John the Baptist.
Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it?
The Virgin Mary kind of wringing her hands in grief, and the Archangel Michael, who's got these fabulous wings and the scales which he would use to weigh the souls of the dead.
So you've got all the right characters here to know that what's missing is actually the crucifixion itself in the centre.
Yeah. In the 16th century, the Tudors decided that it was a bit cold in here.
Yeah.
And smashed through the wall in order to put this large and fairly elaborate fireplace in.
And that's got the remnant of a Tudor rose painting on the front of it. So this represents the ultimate authority.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were tempted to come in here and lie about the purity of your silver or the weight of your gold, all of this kind of iconography is going to be immediately understood by you that if you are lying to the Master of the Mint, who's the representative of the Crown, you're lying to the Crown. If you lie to the Crown, you lie to God. And that's continued with the Tudor rose.
I can imagine being somebody who's a little bit worried about the quality of the metal that I brought into the Royal Mint, and it's gone off to that assaying forge, and I'm sitting in this room looking up at the Archangel Michael with his scales and breaking into a sweat.
Ironically, it was Henry VIII himself who tampered with the purity of silver in his mint. Found in the forge ruins, a collection of crucibles for melting metal is evidence of how coins could be tested and their content manipulated.
Oh, wow. So what have we got then? These look like little crucibles, is that right?
Yes, the 4 different crucibles here, but then we've also got some lovely little things which are called capels.
What are they?
So these are tiny bone ash crucibles, effectively.
So what were they doing? They were just taking little samples of any bullion that was coming in?
Yeah, so sometimes these crucibles would burst and you get something like this. So this is a piece of vitrified brick which has been burnt from within the forge, and you can see it's got a splash of gold along here.
Yeah, just this edge here. And then you've got these colours here, which almost look a bit copper-like there. And then the lead is this black, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got these smaller crucibles and the capels for checking the composition of metals that are coming in to the mint. What are these larger vessels for?
So these larger crucibles are to be used for creating copper alloys.
So they are using copper to make coins?
Yeah, so before the Tudor period, a pound of silver is worth a pound. So that's where we get a lot of our measurements from. But as the kind of lavish lifestyle and failed wars of Henry VIII start to have a real impact on the treasury, they start adding copper alloys into silver coins in order to create more coins. And if you have a pound of coins, they're no longer worth a pound. So it's an incredibly dangerous thing to do, as it undermines confidence in your own currency.
Henry VIII multiplied his money, adding more and more copper into the silver coins, watering down their real value. But this sparked runaway inflation. Is Henry VIII really struggling to control the economy?
Yeah, the coffers are effectively empty. So he needs to replace that with new coinage. And all of these items really show us Henry VIII's desperate need to control every aspect of the creation of coinage. And we can see that at the assaying forge as well.
I want to know just how Henry VIII's moneyers managed to pull off his industrial-scale fraud. In his garden in the Lincolnshire Fens, historic coin-making expert Dave Grinnell has built his own mini medieval mint. And Stuart Pryor is paying him a visit.
I've come here to meet Dave to see how the old rogue Henry VIII made money out of making money.
We're going to head to the forge initially, where we can start showing how the alloys were made.
Yeah. To investigate how Henry VIII debased the currency, we're going to mint our own dodgy coins.
How's that?
That's perfect.
Right. I need just to take the temperature of the forge up to red heat.
Dave's pop-up forge works on exactly the same principles as the assaying forge at the Tower of London.
I hadn't enough notice to build a complete Tudor forge.
The first step is to get the forge going and heat the crucibles. You're going to be exhausted by the time we finish this.
Oh yeah, hot and thirsty.
Yeah.
The money had an allowance of 10 pints of beer a day when working.
There you go. There you go. Dave bellows air into the base of the furnace, essential for reaching over 961 degrees Celsius, the melting point of silver.
We now can add the silver.
Silver would arrive at the assaying forge in different ways.
So there we've got an assortment of coin, swarf, ore, all ready for melting down. All different grades of silver. So that'll go in.
The mint would melt everything they received into pure silver. I can see some impurities in the flames burning off.
That's the copper coming out of the
wow,
of the silver already.
Wow, it's amazing.
But if I put a little bit of lead in,
the lead attaches to the impurities and draws them into the clay of the crucible itself, leaving just silver behind.
So look, see how we're getting on. So in there we've got molten silver.
That's pure silver.
That's roughly 98, 99% pure.
99% pure silver. Yeah. Look at that. Instead of sending almost pure silver to be made into coins, Henry ordered the workers to dilute the silver with less valuable base metals.
So what we would do is add 70% copper to the weight of that silver.
70% copper?
Yeah.
It went debased as much as 70%?
Yes.
Crikey.
You can see the copper dissolving in.
Copper is the perfect metal to combine with silver in coinage. It's cheap, malleable, and roughly the same weight. But with less silver in the coins, they would have less real value.
The wealth of the nation was in its coin. A coin being a piece of precious metal whose intrinsic value is equal to its face value, stamped with an official mark guaranteeing its weight and fineness. So it did exactly what it said on the tin. Well, it did until the time of Henry VIII.
Once the copper and silver have melted together, it can be poured into a solid bar. So this is 30% pure silver and 70%
copper.
Copper.
Yes.
Our bar of debased silver is ready to be turned into coins. But there's one big problem.
Doesn't look like much.
It's the wrong colour. That's a lovely silver bar, perfect for silver coins. That one, you can clearly see that there is a portion of copper in it. Dave hammers the bars into thin sheets, uses a punch to cut out the blanks, and finally soaks the blanks in a bath of acid. So, we've been making some blanks. We've got silver and copper coins.
Yes. Oh, there we go. That's one of the blanks we're going to strike the coins from.
That's the silver one, right?
No.
No?
That is 70% copper, 30% silver, but that's just come out of the acid and it's brought the copper out, enriching the surface.
That's how he got away with it?
Yeah, how it was done, yeah.
Soaking the debased blanks in acid leaches any copper from the outer surface, which leaves a shiny silver face and the appearance of a pure silver coin. Ready to strike it?
Yeah, let's strike it. That's the Lloyd die.
With a carving of Henry's face on it.
And his titles, yeah. That's called a pile.
Yeah.
The upper die that we hit it with is called a trussel. You
Yeah.
take the hammer. The
Right.
blanks in there.
Yep.
All you have to do is hit it once as hard as you can.
Right.
Excellent. Now, do you want to check it off and see what you've done?
I hope so. Oh, yeah, okay, terrific.
Look at that. Perfectly struck coin.
And there is Henry VIII in all his glory. The coin looks silver,
Yeah.
but it's not silver.
No.
So how did people know it wasn't silver?
Well, when the coin's in circulation, they start to wear.
Yeah.
And the highest point on the coin takes the most wear.
Okay.
Now,
Dave uses a file to simulate a few months of wear and tear, and it reveals Henry VIII's deception.
what do you see on there?
Henry VIII seems to have a copper nose.
Exactly. And he was known as Old Copper Nose.
There you go, that's why.
The high points wear away, revealing the copper inside.
You can really see the copper on it, it's so clever. Henry carried on diluting the silver with copper until eventually foreign merchants refused to accept the debased coins and the economy began to suffer. Even then, Henry's son Edward carried on with the same tricks. It took his daughter Elizabeth to come along and she introduced a mark that you put on coins, because I've got one in my hand here that shows a countermark on the coin of Edward VI, basically showing what his true value is. So it took his daughter Elizabeth to fix the damage that Henry VIII wrought on his own coinage.
Just a lonely radio, just a makeshift show and tell, playing out the lives of the lost and found.
The South is littered with monuments that speak of our nation's prehistoric past. Iron Age hill forts, such as Maiden Castle in Dorset and Old Winchester Hill in Hampshire.
We've learned a lot about Iron Age culture from centuries of archaeological discoveries. We know a fair bit about farming in the first millennium BCE, about tools and trade and connections between Britain and the continent. But what was it like to live back then? What was society like? Was it egalitarian or hierarchical? And who exactly was in charge? A careful look at the people themselves in their burials may provide a clue.
So next we journey to Dorset, and the village of Winterbourne Kingston, 20 miles west of Bournemouth. These chalky, rolling hills were once home to a mysterious Iron Age tribe known as the Durotrigas. Since 2009, a team from the University of Bournemouth has been exploring this area, uncovering a whole series of ancient settlements dating from the 2nd century BCE into the Roman period. Over the last 13 years, they've been busy uncovering the secrets of the people that once lived in this fertile landscape. Back in 2010, I paid a visit as the team investigated one of the large enclosed Iron Age settlements here. Among their discoveries were 30 cylindrical storage pits in which they found remnants of barley and Iron Age pottery.
So are they using this as a rubbish pit then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're not seeing a random deposit of domestic waste. We seem to be seeing a deliberate selection procedure.
But most intriguing were the burials. One of the pits contained the skeleton of a man face down on a pile of animal bones. How strange. There's something very odd going on with these pits, isn't there?
There is. I mean, it's almost like, I suppose, burying an ancestor, burying an aunt or an uncle in a cupboard in the kitchen. It doesn't make sense to us. You know, this is the area where they're living, they're working, but their dead are going in these kind of disused pits.
It's very peculiar.
12 years later, the team is back with dig leader Miles Russell, and they're unearthing 4 more burials. But this time, it's the female burials that are causing a stir on site.
A lot of these pits have got bodies, they're in crouched positions, so they're really sort of tightly bound up into a ball. And here we've got a young adult female. She's lying on her left side with the hands up towards the face. And to us, that looks a little bit disrespectful. It looks as if a body's just been bundled into a pit, almost as a way of being disposed of. But I think from the Iron Age perspective, here's a highly respected member of society who is actually being given a lot of care and respect in the pit. So although it looks unusual to us, to them it makes perfect sense, and this is probably an honoured member of the community.
Everyone from Roman writers to 19th century antiquarians assumed that Iron Age societies in Britain were patriarchies, where men ruled the roost. But discoveries here may be turning that assumption on its head.
What we're finding more and more with the Durotrigas is when you do find status goods, they're always with female burials.
So far we've had a whole pot, a glass bead, and we've got a ring potentially coming up there, so yeah, she was clearly someone quite important.
This beautiful glass bead, coloured blue with cobalt oxide, is typically exquisite, as is this delicate iron pin, perhaps once used to tie a shroud around a body.
So the feeling perhaps has been more recently that what we're seeing is that power passes down through the female line and less with the male.
I want to learn more about the status of women in the Durotrigas tribe, so Miles and osteoarchaeologist Megan Russell have come to the Digging for Britain tent. And they've brought the most extraordinary Durotrigas skeleton ever found near to the Winterbourne Kingston site.
So Megan, what about this individual then? Something that's very obvious, these areas of green staining, so presumably that relates to objects that were in her grave?
Yeah, so this individual was actually found by a metal detectorist, and what they first originally found was this big late Iron Age mirror, which you can see appearing just here, and that was placed just around the radius and ulna here. If you can imagine, she was crouched, it was placed just on top, like this.
Not only was this skeleton buried with this extraordinary bronze mirror, there was also this armlet and a stunning thistle brooch.
Green staining is so useful because a lot of the artefacts were displaced during modern ploughing, so these tell us exactly where her artefacts were.
And what kind of biographical detail does this skeleton tell us?
So this individual is a 19 to 25-year-old female. They didn't make it past early adulthood, and we've got almost all of the teeth, apart from 2 molars.
Yeah, and her teeth are amazing. I mean, there's hardly any wear on that. That's so unusual for an individual from this era.
So that definitely speaks to her diet and how well she was treated.
And what about any pathology? I mean, she's very young, but are there any signs of disease or injury here?
Yeah, so we've got some woven bone to the mid-shafts of the tibia, which have now healed. And due to the symmetry, we've predicted that these were probably from vitamin C deficiency, so scurvy. And that means that there was a lack of fruit and vegetables in her diet.
Yeah, if you're not getting vitamin C, you're not making structural proteins properly.
Absolutely.
Blood vessels become friable. You get bleeds, and bleeds can turn into bone.
Absolutely. So it's not the lack of those foods, it's not evidence of low socioeconomic status, it's actually that she's very probably high status, but it's more the status is attached to the types of food that she's eating.
Yeah.
So actually high status, like medieval societies, is probably more animal products and less fruits and vegetables.
And what about these objects, though, Miles? What do they tell us about her status in society?
Well, we can say with the mirror, the handle's been replaced on a number of occasions, so it's probably an heirloom. She's got tweezers, a nice sort of personal item as well, and I suspect the brooches. And when we look across all the wealthy burials, there's only potentially one that's male. All the rest, with mirror burials and jewellery and other items, are female.
Really?
So if you're judging perhaps status symbols as an indicator of power or lineage or heritage, then certainly it looks like it's the women who hold the power and the status.
How fascinating to think that we are looking at this society where it's women who clearly have that status, that we're looking at a matriarchal society in Dorset. So this could be Iron Age royalty?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. I mean, it's obviously ongoing work.
Yeah. When you start to pull that data together, Miles and Megan, I want you to come back and tell me all about
Gladly.
it. These islands we call home have a rich and varied history stretching back thousands of years. But hidden under the ground and underwater are some amazing treasures just waiting to be found.
Wow!
So each year, all across the country, archaeologists dig, dive, and explore their way down. This is brilliant. Searching for fresh discoveries. And it is completely intact. Revealing traces of ancient cultures.
This shoe is 2,803 years old.
Oh, wow. And unearthing fascinating artefacts. Oh, that's a nice thing. What is it?
I've never seen anything quite like it in my career.
Every dig adds new pieces to the ever-growing archaeological jigsaw.
That's so cool, isn't it?
That is the epic story of our islands. This year, I visit digs in some extraordinary locations.
The ceiling just got a bit lower.
And I call on the help of a trio of expert investigators.
It's quite difficult to find any other evidence of things that just leave a mark in the archaeology.
This is a really powerful document because we're getting to hear the voices that we don't usually hear.
Who delve deeper to answer the questions raised by the finds.
Is all of this already recorded in books?
There was none of this in a book anywhere.
Finally, the archaeologists bring their most amazing discoveries into our tent. Astonishing! For up-close analysis. Genuinely rewriting history. Welcome to Digging for Britain. This time, I'm travelling through central Britain to reveal the area's most intriguing archaeological finds. A dig under Leicester Cathedral reveals clues to a lost shrine.
How fantastic to have found this sacred object in this place, which has stayed a sacred place through the centuries.
In Winchester, archaeologists unearthing an Anglo-Saxon cemetery make a spectacular discovery.
It was a very sunny day, and I found this object, which is the color gold. Oh my gosh, what is that?
I track down a forgotten nunnery on the banks of the River Thames.
My personal favourite is this domed symbol.
Is that medieval?
Yeah, 1400 to 1500.
And Onyeka Nubia unearths 500-year-old evidence of the actual women who lived there.
There are problems in this house, as 6 nuns have run away.
Wow, phenomenal number.
First, we travel to RAF Alconbury, near the town of Huntingdon, 15 miles south of Peterborough. Built in 1938 for use by RAF Bomber Command and expanded to become a US Air Force base in 1942, RAF Alconbury remained operational until 30 years ago. Now, this World War II airbase is being redeveloped, and that's giving archaeologists a precious chance to look beneath the runways. This nuclear bunker is known as Dragon Mountain. It was built at the height of the Cold War and used as a base for US spy operations. This was built at a time when people were genuinely fearing that they were facing the end of civilization. And in a way, that's what the archaeologists are looking at here as well, a time of incredibly heightened anxiety many centuries ago. This dig takes us right back to one of the most tumultuous periods in Britain's history, the end of the Roman period. With the Roman road, Ermine Street, and the Roman town of Godmanchester nearby, the team from Oxford Archaeology expected to find some Roman activity. But when they started digging, they found far more than they'd anticipated. Lead archaeologist Chris Thatcher is giving me a tour of this baffling dig. So, Chris, what have you got?
We've got bits of mid-Iron Age archaeology, tiny bits of early Roman archaeology, and then a gap, and then this flurry of activity in the very, very late Roman period.
Oh, and that's such an interesting time.
Yeah, that's it. It's so rare to find such a concentrated burst of activity during that time, certainly in like a rural context where we are now.
OK, can we have a look at what's coming out of the trenches then? The Romans occupied Britain from 43 CE until the collapse of the Western Empire some 400 years later. Affluent communities left behind a wealth of archaeological evidence, from urban centres to rural villa complexes. But poorer communities left far fewer traces. But as footage captured by the archaeologists shows, this site is a rare exception.
It's just amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely wonderful. Look at that. How many are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a beautiful thing.
One of the most striking features of the site is a large, dark ditch, easily visible. So I can see this massive feature coming through here, but why is it here?
Well, we think it's a large enclosure or boundary ditch, and it goes all the way round and encloses this area down to the bottom of the site.
So it's like a moat going around the outside of it.
Essentially, yeah.
And then ditches are places where things fall in and you tend to get fines. So have you had anything out of these ditches?
Yeah, round here we found a lot of late Roman coins.
Do we think people were living inside this enclosure through into that late Roman period?
That's the interesting thing on the site. We don't think they were actually living here, but they are coming here, and the material is being left here. But what they're leaving over there is what's got us really excited.
Let's have a look. Chris and the team have recovered over 100 kilograms of pottery from this relatively small site, far beyond what would be expected as waste from a rural settlement. As well as the sheer volume, it's the remarkable condition and position of the pottery that makes it so unusual. So we've got some smashed up pots here.
Exactly, we've got 3 different deposits of pots. They are smashed, but they're entire vessels.
Yeah.
All late Roman, and they're all deposited in this top layer, this top sort of 30, 40 centimetres of the ditch.
Surely this is just rubbish. This is people just chucking stuff in a ditch.
If it was rubbish, you'd expect people just to tip their rubbish in. We can see from the stratigraphy that they're actually cutting into the top of the ditch, these pits, to actually bury individual vessels.
Oh, OK. So they're not just using the existing ditch and, I mean, throwing these pots in or placing these pots in.
Yeah.
They're actually digging down.
Exactly, yeah.
And then burying them.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's that sort of cumulative evidence, that build-up, which just makes us go, this isn't random, this isn't rubbish disposal, there's something deliberate.
Yeah. A ritual was part and parcel of people's daily lives.
Yeah.
But you also have to not leap to that being the conclusion.
So it's not what we would normally expect going on here.
Yeah. While Chris is showing me these curious finds, over in the next trench, archaeologist Steve has just unearthed another pot. Oh, Steve, what have you got there?
Hi, Alice. It's a complete Neem Valley ware pot.
That's beautiful. Is it complete and intact?
Well, at the moment, yes, I think so. It's just about to come out now.
Yeah.
1,000 odd years.
Oh, wow. Here it comes. Oh, wow, look at that. That's lovely.
Wow, look at that. So that's the base of it there. That's the top. It's all intact.
Can I have a look? Oh, Steve, that is beautiful. And it is completely intact. Can I clear off some of this
by all
clay?
means, yeah.
So this is late Roman?
Yes, possibly late 4th century.
So this is the first time that somebody's held this in their hands for...
Since they put it in the ground.
1,600 years ago.
Yeah.
It just seems odd. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're just throwing rubbish away.
No, and that's what we need to find out.
And this completely intact pot isn't the first that the team have found. Project officer Paddy Lambert has assembled a collection of the best finds to show me.
It's a flagon.
Isn't that a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of pottery?
Yep, and I think the decoration is really nice at first glance, but look a little bit closer and you can see that it's actually quite poorly executed.
This bit here looks like it's gone a bit awry.
Exactly.
It's been smudged.
Yeah. So it's actually quite a common thing to find this level of decoration in the later Roman period. It seems to symbolise almost exactly what the Roman province of Britannia was going through. It's that economic trial and tribulation at this period.
It's a lovely vessel.
You might have noticed, of course, that it's missing its head. The spout here and the handle has been chopped off in one fluid motion.
It hasn't just broken?
No, it's been chopped. You can tell it because it's very smooth, so it's been in the ground like that for a very long time.
That's curious,
It's very curious.
So you think this is not just rubbish, you think there's something much more thoughtful going on?
Exactly. That leads us neatly on to the rest of the assemblage, which is also a very curious mix of bits.
What about that there?
That is a snake ring. So it's a ring, literally to look like a snake. If you just put it on your hand like that.
Do you think it's been bent?
Yes,
I
think so.
don't think you would have been able to get it on your finger.
It's been
like
compressed. Interesting that you say that it's actually been bent or it's rather too small.
Yeah.
This kind of thing is very, very common on this site, and they do suggest that they are miniature symbols of other objects. For example, if you come from a rural society that can't afford to buy these actual jewelleries, then perhaps there is an industry going on where you can buy these things
Miniature versions.
to give, exactly, to donate.
Ah, OK. You're really starting to build up this idea, aren't you, Paddy, that you think these objects have been deliberately placed here for a reason.
We're finding early brooches. The pin itself suggests that it has been deposited, it's not broken. Usually when you find brooches, the pin is missing, so it suggests they've fallen off.
Yeah.
When you find the pin, it suggests that they've taken it off, put it in and placed it as well. We don't have that much evidence for agriculture, but we do have tools that have been deposited that are to do with agriculture.
So is that a scythe?
There is, yes, very similar.
Yeah.
It's called a reaping hook. It's a small version. It's a little wooden handle. If you just turn it over, you can see the socket where the wooden handle would have been.
So that's a hand scythe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is, again, deposited whole.
And that's coming out of the same ditch?
It's coming out of the same feature, yeah.
Yeah.
As a collective, none of these are in isolation are actually that interesting. As an assemblage, they are really revealing.
So you're reaching for this interpretation that these objects have been placed in these ditches in a ritual way.
Precisely.
Paddy believes that these buried objects could have been offerings to the gods in a time of great upheaval and anxiety.
Between 350 and 400 AD, the Roman Empire is in bad way. It's in dire straits, and especially in Britain. The agricultural economy has shrunk. The military economy has shrunk. The army have gone. There is various incursions all over, from the Picts to the Saxons. These people are embroiled in this, and it does seem like the only time you would see this level of curation, this level of votive offering, of deposition, is disruption or fear.
So you're seeing this fragment of material culture that we can see here as evidence of a society in disarray and a sense of anxiety.
Exactly. I think it's a microcosm of the story of Roman Britain.
There's something really eerie about this site, and it's not just the hangars. I think the archaeology here is fascinating. And as much as I want to believe that what's ending up in the ditch is just their rubbish, it seems that there's more to it. And the archaeologists believe that what we've got here is a response to this tumultuous period of history as the Roman period in Britain comes to an end. And I just wonder what was in the mind of the person who placed this pot in the ditch 1600 years ago and then walked away.
After the fragmenting of the Western Roman Empire, there's evidence of migration into Britain and new kingdoms begin to form. One of the most powerful and enigmatic Anglo-Saxon kingdoms lay right in the centre. It was known as Mercia.
We've got a chronic shortage of houses in Britain. We desperately need to build more. And archaeologists work hand in hand with the construction industry. They monitor new developments as they happen and record any archaeology which comes to light, often leading to completely unexpected discoveries.
Our next dig takes us to New Alresford, just north of the River Itchen and 7 miles from Winchester. Before a new housing development could be built on the edge of the town, archaeologists were called in to investigate some circular crop marks, first identified in a 1960s aerial photograph. Early exploratory trenches revealed them to be 3 Bronze Age ring ditches, which would have encircled ancient burial mounds. But that's not all the archaeologists discovered, because dug into and around the ring ditches were over 100 shallow graves. Trainee archaeologist George is part of the team investigating.
In this 5 metre or so area, I've had 4 skeletons, which we didn't know were here. Quite exciting.
What the team have stumbled on is a previously unknown Anglo-Saxon cemetery, dating to the early medieval period.
Is that one here?
Paul McCulloch from Pre-Construct Archaeology is leading the dig.
A lot of our graves are much shallower than they would have actually been when they were made in the Anglo-Saxon period. And that shallowness has come about because of intense agriculture. So we can see some of the plough scars, as we call them, that they've cut into the Bronze Age barrows and they've cut into the Anglo-Saxon graves as well. So we can expect many of the graves to have simply been eroded, and you will lose the evidence of the Anglo-Saxon population that was here if you don't do something about it.
The early Anglo-Saxons seem to have been mainly pagan. But from the end of the 6th century, missionaries were sent from Italy to convert their rulers to Orthodox Christianity and bring them under the sway of Rome once again. The evidence here is leading the team to suspect that this cemetery could be the resting place of some of the earliest Christian Anglo-Saxons in the Itchen Valley.
The burials appear to be in quite organised rows, in graves that had been well cut. These attributes suggest that it was reasonably well managed. Most of them are laid east to west with the head to the west, and they're buried on their back.
Paul and his team, including archaeologist Lara, want to find out more about this community, how they lived and how they died. The well-preserved human remains may hold some clues.
So this is a child, we're thinking under 10 years old. The easiest way to tell is the bones aren't fully fused. So this is the top bit of the vertebra, it's not fused onto the rest of it yet. And it's the same with the fingers and the toes. They're a lot bittier than you would expect with adults.
A much bigger grave is being excavated by archaeologist Liam.
At the moment, we've got the top of what looks like a male skull. And he's in a lot better condition than most of the skulls that actually get on the site. So we've got the brow just here, and there's his nose. Well, that's where his nose would have been. And then I imagine he's got quite long legs. So this is one of our larger graves. It's a lot wider than most of the other graves.
The cemetery population is quite mixed, and there's young and old. It doesn't represent a catastrophic event brought about by disease or something like that. We're looking at a long-lived cemetery that represents a community that lived and farmed here on the downland. We don't know where they were living, but we certainly know where they were putting their dead.
Although the organisation of the cemetery suggests Christian burial practice, over half of the burials have been found to contain grave goods, something more common in pagan funerary rites. Perhaps this is a clue that the religious beliefs of the community were in flux.
The bones come up the red to white, and then you've got this dark, metallic, rusty tinge. So I discovered this small iron blade laying on top of the right upper arm and the vertebrae. So the handle, which would have been attached, has obviously dissolved and disappeared over time, but the metal blade itself is still intact. So whether it's been laid on top of them after burial or whether it was within their clothing, it's difficult to say.
So the most common finds we've made in the graves are knives. One of our graves had a pair of shears in it, but I think these very simple knives were your everyday pocket knife. Some of the earlier Anglo-Saxon cemeteries that we're familiar with in the Itchen Valley, the burials there were often accompanied by a considerable range of objects, from pottery vessels to spearheads to shields and jewellery as well. Whereas in the 7th century, there seems to be less objects buried with the dead, perhaps in reflection of some kind of change in burial practice that might be related to religious belief.
And one find provides another tantalising clue that some of those buried here could have been Christian. The spectacular discovery was made by archaeologist Giovanni.
It was a very sunny day, and I found this object, which is the color gold. It was yellow. I found, oh my gosh, what is there? Then I tried to clean up with the brush, and I found out that it was a pendant, golden pendant. So this is the first time that someone found something gold in here. It was amazing. It's difficult to express the feelings, but you could see from my face.
I really wanted to get a close look at this artefact and understand what it could mean. So I've invited Paul and find specialist Marit Gamester to bring this incredible object to the tent. So here is the pendant. It's an extraordinary object, isn't it, Marit?
It's beautiful. It really is beautiful.
Can I pick it up?
You can pick it up.
Thank you very much.
Gold is very stable.
Look at that.
It is
what a lovely thing.
Yeah.
So that is lighter than I expected, but it still has some weight to it, doesn't it?
It could have potentially been part of a necklace or strung between pins.
Yeah.
And had beads and other lovely things.
I mean, you can see that it's suspended, can't you?
Yeah, that's a suspension loop, and it's got some lovely filigree work along the edge.
So this is with gold wires being laid on the surface.
Yeah, and sort of welded to the surface.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose what you notice about this is that it's got this cross-like design on it.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, a cross is one way of decorating a circle.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily Christian, but do you think it could be Christian symbolism in this case?
I think it likely is, because it is a period that sees the whole, you know, development of Christianity in the Anglo-Saxon area.
Paul, this is an interesting site. What's the archaeology telling you about these kind of themes of continuity and discontinuity in the landscape? What do you think is going on here?
These populations in the 7th century have one foot in the ancient world, which they inherited from Roman Britain, and one foot in early medieval England. So,
are we expecting these people to have been Christian?
You know, we have this suggestive pendant, and we have burial practice which would be familiar as being ostensibly Christian.
It's a really interesting time.
I think it's
very
interesting
interesting period.
When you look at funerary archaeology, religion doesn't clearly map onto it.
Yeah.
No.
So people might continue doing what they've done before, what previous generations did for a while, and then start to modify it. So it could be symbolising Christianity as well as symbolising wealth and status.
Yeah, yeah.
As Christianity was adopted as an official religion in more parts of Britain, it became more visible in the landscape. From modest chapels to towering cathedrals, from priories to bishops' palaces. Some are still standing and still used, but even those that have been reduced to ruins still have stories to tell. Our next dig takes us to the north bank of the River Thames, 4 miles southeast of Windsor, to Ankerwyck. On the opposite bank of the river is an area of meadow called Runnymede. It was here that King John agreed to the Magna Carta in an attempt to make peace with powerful rebel barons. In 1215, during the medieval period. On the south bank over there, that's where the Magna Carta was signed between the king and the barons, and of course the Archbishop is there orchestrating it all. It's a very male story. Over on the north bank, we've got a more hidden history involving women. Archaeologists have been drawn to investigate medieval monasteries for 200 years, but nunneries, which are often smaller and more modest, tend to have been overlooked. Well, now archaeologists are getting the opportunity to explore a Benedictine nunnery here in the historic landscape of Ankerwyck.
This dig by National Trust archaeologists and volunteers began last summer.
So what we're looking at here is our first confirmed piece of medieval pottery. So this is our first real tangible piece of the nuns living on the site here at Ankerwick.
In this exploratory slot here, we've been picking out some rather large pieces of roof tile.
It's floor tile, absolutely stunning.
Not every find is as old as the nunnery.
Oh, it's a recorder! It's the top part of a recorder!
Archaeologist James Brown is leading this dig.
Hello. Hello, hello.
Hi Alice, welcome to Ankerwick. Lovely to have you on site.
Lovely to be here. So, what are we actually looking at here? What are the ruins that we can see above the ground there?
We've never been quite sure whether this is part of a romantic folly built on the site around 1800.
Right.
But our investigations are starting to show that actually this is a surviving part of the medieval nunnery that was on the site.
And how much do we know historically about the nunnery? Is there a lot of information?
So we know the nunnery was founded in 1160,
Yeah.
but what we are really lacking is any maps or plans of how those buildings interlock with each other.
So there's lots of genuine questions here then. You really don't know what this nunnery looked like, and this is a chance to find out.
Yeah, little avenues to the life of the nuns here, how they were living and surviving and thriving in this landscape, really giving a bit of a voice to the female nuns that are here that they haven't had before.
After the dissolution, the remains of Ankerwick Priory were converted into a grand Tudor mansion, which was almost completely demolished in the 19th century. As dig diary footage shows, National Trust diggers have already unearthed the original nunnery's cloister and church.
So on day one of this dig, there was indications that there was the wall of the cloisters just here.
Given the size of it, the width of it, it's not supporting a massive structure, so we think it is definitely the cloister itself.
The corner of the cloister is clearly visible in an aerial survey. Now the team are hunting for the rest of the monastic complex.
Well, this is a very exciting trench.
Huge amount going on here. Probably the best person to actually talk to is Becky.
Hi, Becky.
Yeah. So we've got a bit of everything in our trench at the moment. The top part of this wall here, we have this nasty 1940s concrete.
Yeah.
Odd bits of brick in, but then we have these beautiful medieval stones.
That's lovely.
And we do actually have some wood here still in situ.
Yeah.
And then right at the bottom there, we have a chalk foundation layer, which is actually steeping away from the wall.
Yeah.
And these steps here, which we believe are from the Tudor house, leading down to a cellar.
So the phases of this, and we've got a Tudor house being built into the remains of the priory.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Is that part medieval too?
So this is really exciting, actually. This lovely big stone down here is our threshold. This is the doorway.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a vertical door jamb into the corner of the trench here.
Yeah.
And you almost get that kind of idea. It has been worn by people stepping on that lovely kind of rotated edge to it.
This looks like the doorway into the nuns' refectory, where they would have eaten their meals. Geophysics revealing buried archaeology is helping James to make sense of the site.
So geophysics for the site, very busy. Our dig last year, straight down onto our medieval cloister here, that rectangle. And that really allowed us to then start talking about the site with a bit more confidence in where the church would be in relation to that cloister, and this remaining structure here being our refectory.
The team are slowly beginning to piece together what the nunnery would have looked like, with a chapel, cloister, living quarters and refectory. While the small finds emerging from the trenches provide us with a more personal connection to the women who lived here. Assistant archaeologist Harry Farmer
Harry, hi.
Hello, Alice.
has gathered some of the best finds to show me.
My personal favourite is this domed thimble.
Is that medieval?
Yeah, so it's cast copper alloy.
Yeah.
And it's circa 1400 to 1500.
Okay. I mean, there must have been quite a lot of sewing going on. Everything was hand sewn.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah, yeah,
Is
really
that a
nice.
bead there?
Yeah. When this first came out, we thought it was metal, but it's actually glass.
Is it?
So, yeah, really just dainty piece, and it's got that nice kind of linear dot marking on it, decoration.
Yeah.
But yeah, glass ovid bead with a finely drilled hole through the middle, so can't definitively say what that is.
Could be a rosary bead, could
It
it?
looks very rosary-like to me.
Yeah. Is that a coin?
Yeah, so it's a Henry III cut halfpenny, and that's dated 1250 to 1272.
And is that cut up to use?
Yeah, you go to the shop and you've only got this penny, but it only costs you a fraction of that amount, so you just snip it in half and use half of it. But what's really nice about this, before it was broken in the excavation, had evidence of being folded quite slowly over time by hand. And there is some study in archaeology and from historical sources that coins are often, as an act of devotion, folded over during prayer.
So it could have some kind of spiritual meaning, but this is a place which is economic as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's a lot of brokering and trade and you know, daily business going on here.
And what have you got here? You've got some pins?
Yeah, so I'll take this one because this is a kind of hand cast. Wow. Really, really dainty.
I mean, these are these objects that you just think, it's amazing that they've survived, and then it's incredible that they've been picked up archaeologically as well.
So, yeah, essentially, not a hairpin, because too dainty for that, just a dress pin, so for different parts of your
or
clothing.
A veil.
Yeah, or part of the habit.
Such a fine, fragile thing, isn't it, to have survived all that time?
Yeah.
I see, it's quite poignant in a way, isn't it? Because we don't really hear from the women themselves, and all we've got are these tiny, tiny traces of them.
This dig is revealing so many forgotten details about this medieval nunnery. But there's another source of information. Rare historical records which reveal the tensions, scandals and politics that took place within its walls. Historian Onyeka Nubia is tracking down those records 150 miles away in Lincoln.
This is Lincoln Cathedral. When it was consecrated in 1092, it became the mother church of one of the largest dioceses in England.
Bishops here administratively managed an area that ran from the Humber to the Thames.
This included over 2,000 parishes. One of the most southerly, the parish of Wraysbury, included Ankerwick. Each parish was regularly visited by the Bishop of Lincoln, or one of his representatives. I've come to the Lincolnshire Archives to meet with Dr. Nicholas Bennett, who has access to records of these visits. One of these documents dates to the same period as the thimble and pin found on the site.
Luckily and magically almost, we have a very detailed source for a visitation of Ankerwick Priory in October 1441.
So what kinds of things does it tell us?
At the time of the visitation, there were 7 nuns, but it also tells us that over the last few years, this number has been reduced down to 7 because 6 nuns have run away.
Wow, that's phenomenal number.
There are all sorts of reasons why nuns were in monasteries in the first place. Some went voluntarily, some were put there by their families at quite a young age, and they might have thought after a while that this was not the life for them. So there are problems in this house. That's what Bishop Annick is going to be faced with. The bishop would arrive and the whole convent will be assembled, and they were all allowed to have their say on their own in confidence before the bishop. So we're actually peering into this confidential document, you know, nearly 600 years later.
And so this is a powerful document because it contains many of the voices from this nunnery that we haven't heard from. What do they actually say?
Right, well, the prioress, of course, by virtue of her position, goes first. She's called Clemence Medford, and it says up here that the prioress says that the nuns, from time to time, are moved against her at the slightest breeze, ex leni vento. So the littlest problem, they'll be complaining.
It seems such an evocative statement here that they sort of moved against me by any sort of slight breeze, that it's almost likely to be her exact words that are paraphrased.
It could well be. It's a very evocative phrase, as you say.
Yes.
Then she goes on to say, they bibunt by habit and take potationes, drinks, post completorium after compline. And the compline was the last service of the day. In the evening, they're supposed to then go to bed.
And by suggesting that they're at fault, she would then be implying, don't listen to what they've got to say.
Yeah.
We've got other voices?
Yes, absolutely. Now, the next one is the sub-prioress, who's the prioress's deputy, who seems from this to be a fairly loyal deputy to her mistress. And Isabel Standen says, all is well, omnia bene. Well, we'll see afterwards that omnia was not bene in this case. Yeah. Then we get a very different character, Marjorie Kirkby, who's clearly very critical. She starts off by pointing out that under the rule of the current prioress, the houses and buildings of the priory have been let fall into ruin. She has lost vestments, she has lost silver plate, she has lost books. She then goes on to say the prioress is actually running the monastery herself. She's not allowing anyone a share in the administration.
Right. We're getting to see different views from these various women.
Yes.
Some in authority and power and some not.
Exactly. And we go on to this next page here, where she says that the prioress wears golden rings of great cost, plurimum sumptuosis, with divers precious stones, but that the ordinary nuns, in contrast to these precious stones, are actually being deprived of the ordinary habits, and they're actually going around in threadbare outfits.
So the suggestion is that she's using the money that should have been used for the uniforms to buy herself costly attire and equipment.
Yes. And in fact, the young nuns, the sort of 13-year-old and younger, are supposed to be taught. They are supposed to have a teacher, a governess, in reading and in singing. This is one of the great advantages for a young woman in the 15th century to actually have an education by going into a nunnery. But this has not been provided. And it's, I think, significant that within 2 years after this visitation, the prioress, Clemens Medford, has resigned, and the new prioress who's appointed is none other than Marjorie Kirkby.
Wow.
So she's clearly, I think, someone who's keen to see the monastery being run properly.
So no sympathy for the prioress?
Not really. Well, would you, after you've been going around in tatters for years? We want something better.
Okay.
This document is a fascinating and rare insight into the lives of just a few of the women who lived at Ankerwyck. Along with the archaeology, is helping to piece together a history which for 400 years has been hidden.
The Midlands have always been a hub of industry and trade. Medieval trading centres were connected by a network of rivers, canals and roads. And along those routes were inns and taverns where travellers could find refreshment and rest their weary heads. Our next dig takes us to the East Midlands, to the town of Northampton. There were settlements on the banks of the River Nene going right back to the Neolithic. By the medieval period, Northampton had developed into an important town, though racked by wars and plague. In 1675, the Great Fire of Northampton blazed through the town, destroying most of the timber-framed buildings. The town was rebuilt, but much of medieval Northampton had been wiped out.
The archaeology here in Northampton is very complicated. It's a palimpsest, layers upon layers upon layers through the centuries. There are some places where you can come and see the past, as here with this beautiful Norman church of St. Peter's. And in fact, there's archaeology all around here. So excavations to the east of the church uncovered a large Anglo-Saxon hall. And now archaeologists are getting an opportunity to investigate here to the west, where a pub is being renovated, a pub with a very long history. The old Black Lion pub called Last Orders in 2018, and now a £3 million conservation project is set to restore this Grade 2 listed building to its former glory. Which means archaeologists are getting the unique opportunity to see beneath the standing remains. This site is being run by Derek Roberts and his team from Pre-Develop Archaeology. Well, you've made quite a mess.
We have.
Why are you making a mess?
Well, we're here on the behest of the Church's Conservation Trust, who have leased the property to turn it back into a pub.
So it was a pub originally?
Pub originally. First documented, I think, around 1720.
OK.
And then as we go down, we're finding stuff that's showing us that there's been some servicing of people all the way through.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here looks like quite an interesting story above ground. Has that always been evident?
No. When we first got here, there was render and paint all over it. And as we see it, many 17th, 18th, 19th and 20th century alterations and additions as we look around it. And you're left with lovely little pockets or islands of archaeology standing up in the facade there.
Down in the trench, the team are starting to reveal the footprint of the original coaching inn. By the 18th century, coaching inns had become a staple along Britain's roads. Travellers arriving by horse-drawn coach would stop off for food, beer and lodgings. Many of these inns are still in use today as pubs.
So this is the entrance here, is it?
Yes, I think if you look at these places, they're pretty standard. So you'd want to be able to come in, turn your carts around, horses go up to the stables, they're fed and watered, and so are the people coming in with them.
Yeah.
The 18th century inn fits neatly into the footprint shown on a 1720 map. But for earlier periods, the team are relying on the work of a famous early 17th century mapmaker, John Speed.
If we look down here, look, we've got something that sort of resembles the church that we know to be on the right-hand side of us beyond our building.
There.
That little one there, look at that. We're trying to place ourselves with that little thing there.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little detail. It's just an indication that there was a building here.
No, that's right.
It really helps us to understand, you know, where we are in terms of this main road coming in. And so this building, whatever it is right there, isn't it, on that main road? It's one of the first buildings that you'd see.
That's right.
Yeah.
This early map gives only a vague hint that there was something here, right next to the church and at the entrance to the town, predating the 1720 inn. And the team are uncovering evidence of even earlier activity.
So what have we got down here then, Derek? This looks like it's burned.
Yes, we have a horseshoe-shaped possible bread oven, really.
Right, OK. Yeah, you can see the bricks around the outside there. They're really burnt, aren't they?
Really burnt. I mean, heavily burnt.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You know, not as burnt as we'd think from an industrial process, maybe, but hot enough that that's going through some action in a day.
And what about by you there? Because it looks like there's another bit of curved wall just there.
I'm sitting in another bread oven, so we can see part of that wall curling around here.
Yeah.
And if we look a little bit harder, we can see an earlier one underneath. This is many iterations of that same little bread oven going on.
And domestic, or do you think it's a bit bigger than that?
You'd have to think that some of these are actually going and functioning at the same time. So I think this is just a little bit higher than subsistence and maybe showing us it may be a commercial enterprise. Industry, I don't think so, but definitely commercial.
Yeah, OK, so it may be that before there was a coaching in here, there was some kind of bakery?
By looking at the maps, there's a thoroughfare, and if there's trade passing through, they're going to want something. They may be serving the local community.
It's exciting to find evidence of what was here before the coaching inn and before records begin. And the small finds the team have turned up can help to give us a date.
We have this sort of material here, which we'll call Cistercian type, whether or not that is Cistercian ware, but that's 15th, 16th.
And this is on top of those ovens?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we have this sort of stuff. pre the Cistercian ware. The Cistercian ware is quite treacly coloured glaze, and there's often said that there's a change over from that because people are getting away from this Tudor-type green ware that we have. So we know we're sitting probably 1350, 1400, something like that.
We're getting a bit earlier.
Getting a bit earlier.
So what's the earliest pottery here?
So we've got Stamford ware, classic bone-coloured, and we have that almost transparent glaze on it, look, just like that.
Lovely.
That one's got some slight darker green speckling in it. I'd be happy to put in that about 1150, really.
Right, OK.
The medieval pottery, going back as early as the 12th century, shows us that this site has been in use for nearly 1,000 years, perhaps as a bakery first before it became an inn, just inside the gate of the town.
And then this is going to be made back into a pub again, so it's going to be restored to that function.
That's right, really lovely pointing along here rather than painted over again.
Yeah.
And what are they going to do? They're going to feed and water the people that are passing by again.
Yeah. What I really love about this site is the way that the archaeology under the ground ties in with what still exists above ground. And you're still going to be able to see that. So it's not going to be covered with render and plaster. You'll be able to go to this pub and see that beautiful stonework on show. And once again, it will be going back to its former glory as an inn.
Redevelopment of our modern cities gives us a precious opportunity to dig down. Urban archaeology helps us to understand how these places have grown and changed over time. Our next dig takes us to the largest city in the East Midlands, Leicester. The discovery of the remains of Richard III under a car park in 2012 by a team from the University of Leicester was one of the most headline-grabbing archaeological events of recent times. But Leicester's been important since the Iron Age, when it was a regional capital, and it developed into a thriving Roman town.
3 years after he was discovered, Richard III was interred here at Leicester Cathedral. Cue droves of modern pilgrims, tourists, flocking to see him. But I am not here to see Richard III. I've hot-footed it to Leicester because I've heard about an astonishing archaeological discovery just here, outside the cathedral.
A discovery which predates Richard III by more than a millennium, taking us back to the Roman period. A multi-million-pound restoration project at Leicester Cathedral is giving archaeologists a rare chance to dig right beside it. Leading the team is Matt Morris from the University of Leicester.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
This is an enormous trench to be digging right next to the cathedral. I mean, that's a brave thing to do.
It could be, yes. I mean, one of the fears was we didn't want to collapse the cathedral into the excavation area, of course.
No, Leicester Cathedral itself is really interesting, isn't it? Because it was only made into a cathedral relatively recently.
1927, but what people tend to forget is it was a medieval church first. It was just a parish church that was uplifted to cathedral status.
Yeah, so it's been here a long time.
The earliest we know of it by name is 1220, but it might be much older than that. And we've got so little early history for the church, including when it was founded. This excavation may be one of those rare opportunities to answer that question.
The team have been digging here for 14 months, uncovering a huge medieval cemetery from the parish church they knew existed here. But now, beneath these graves, they're finding signs of earlier activity.
What we found is a Roman coin of Emperor Vespasian. He reigned from 69 to 79 AD.
So I found this Roman bone head. It's a pretty cool find.
There's always been this folklore story that there was a Roman temple under the church. And when the Victorians were rebuilding the tower, they found Roman walls and instantly leapt to the conclusion that that was conclusive proof of a temple.
What, I mean, why did they think it was a temple?
I don't know, but we know there's Roman buildings under it. That's
Yeah.
all. It could just be a house.
Yeah, yeah. There's something Roman.
There's something Roman
yeah.
under there.
You've got down to these Roman levels.
We're at Roman and we've got something really exciting to show you.
Where is it?
Come this way.
So is that all Roman wall?
That is all Roman wall coming through from the back there, up to here, turning and going off this way.
Fantastic. And what's that kind of pinkish, is it plaster on it?
So this thin layer of pink mortar is called opus signinum, and it's full of crushed up Roman tile, and that would have acted as a waterproof layer on the wall. What this probably is damp proofing for a room that is under the ground level.
Oh.
It's the remains of a Roman cellar.
Yeah.
It may not be fully subterranean, but it's at least partially subterranean.
OK.
The 3D model of the trench shows that this Roman cellar is 4 metres square. It appears to have had nothing above it, but would have been surrounded by Roman yard surfaces at ground level and have been accessed by a sunken passageway. But there is a small clue that this cellar might have been something more than just a storage room.
This is painted wall plaster. This is the material that is coming off this wall.
So this is a posh cellar. This isn't just a damp, dank cellar.
You don't just paint your walls for a storage cellar, not with this. I mean, you've got 3 different colours going on here with a stripe down the middle, so you've got an intricate wall painting here. It's a function room that happens to be semi-subterranean.
Yeah.
A coin found alongside this piece of plaster tells us when the cellar was in use.
This came from the bottom of the rubble on the cellar floor.
Right.
You can just about make out the emperor's head on here, and this is Tetricus, and we know he's emperor in 273 AD.
Brilliant.
So we know our cellar can't have been demolished any earlier than that.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? It just pins it down.
It really does.
And what do you think the function of this space
Well,
was?
our best find is still to come, and it's behind you.
A piece of carved stone.
And not just any carved stone. This looks like the base of a Roman altar.
That is fantastic.
Could this be evidence of the legendary Roman temple?
So where did this come from?
It came from just here.
Right, OK.
But unfortunately, what we can see here is this is one of the piles for the new Heritage Learning Centre.
Yeah.
And it's drilled
yeah.
down 12 metres and has sadly gone through one end of the altar where it's snapped off.
Usually, excavation happens before any construction work starts. But here, the builders have had to drive piles into the ground first in order to make the site safe for the archaeologists.
It's so unfortunate, and yet, so these were completely necessary. You couldn't have done this dig.
We couldn't have done it
had these
without.
piles not gone in first.
Yeah.
So you can see these fragments here. It could be that we're looking at the front of the altar down there. There could be an inscription on these pieces.
There could be. We know we found it face down. And this large chunk here would have been the bit from here.
OK. Should we have a go at getting this out, then?
Yeah. If I get my trowel under here, and you come in from that side, and what we'll try and do is between trowel and hand, we'll try and lift the whole lot and put it down in here.
And there could be an inscription
And then
on this side.
once we've got it in there, we can have a look underneath it.
OK.
That's it. Brilliant. So it's that bit and this bit down here that might have something on.
Can't see anything here. It looks quite clean.
Much to my disappointment, there is no inscription to be seen.
How would it have been used, then? Would it have been something that offerings might have been placed on?
Looking at the size of it then, it would have probably been about this high.
Yeah.
And it's what we'd call a portable altar. It's an easily movable object.
Is it the kind of object that someone might have had in their house, or is it more likely to be associated with a different type of building?
It's something that would more likely be in a private setting, I think, than a grand temple.
But we have got a a private shrine then.
And a sunken featured room.
Yeah.
And there's lots of
Yeah.
Roman cults that do have elements of subterranean worship within their practices. And it actually raises some important questions about the use of this particular site throughout Leicester's history. There's always been this story of a temple under the cathedral. And we're now moved to a point where, OK, we haven't perhaps got a grand temple, but we have got a place of spiritual significance. We've got an altar base from the Roman period. And as far as we know, it's Leicester's first Roman altar as well.
Really?
It is, yeah.
How fantastic to have found this sacred object in this place, which has stayed being a sacred place through the centuries.
It's an incredible find.
This extraordinary discovery shows that the medieval church, which would eventually become Leicester Cathedral, was built very close to a Roman religious shrine, in use until at least the late 3rd century. It's a reminder of the depths of history in our cities and of changing religious beliefs through time.